Good evening, everyone. You're listening to Aftermath Radio, broadcasting from the ARC Fleet Command Center. I'm Marcus Reed, and with me, as always, is Elena Shaw. If you're just tuning in, today marks exactly 50 years since the Great Departure. 50 years since the last evacuation ships left Earth's surface. 50 years since humanity abandoned our homeworld to the radiation and the ash. And tonight, we have news that will change everything. News that seems impossible. News that's going to reshape the future of our entire species. Elena, I'm still processing what we've learned in the past hour. The data from the reconnaissance drones, the atmospheric readings, the radiation levels. After 50 years of waiting, of hoping, of wondering if we'd ever go home, Earth is habitable again.
Let me provide the context, because this is the most significant announcement in half a century. 50 years ago, in 2075, the world ended. Not figuratively, literally. The Third World War escalated beyond control. Nuclear weapons were deployed on a scale that defied imagination. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands of warheads, every major city on Earth, every military installation, every industrial center. The nuclear winter that followed blocked out the sun for years. Temperatures dropped globally by 40 degrees Celsius. Agriculture became impossible. The survivors, those who hadn't died in the initial blasts, faced starvation and radiation poisoning. Within 2 years, Earth's population dropped from 8 billion to perhaps 100 million. And that's when the ARC initiative launched. Humanity's last desperate gamble. 7 massive generation ships carrying 500,000 people each. 3.5 million humans total. Everyone who could be saved. Everyone who passed the selection criteria. We left Earth to die. We left it to heal on its own while we survived in space.
The plan was always to return. The generation ships, the ARCs, were designed to sustain human life for up to 200 years if necessary. Long enough for Earth to heal from the radiation. Long enough for the nuclear winter to end. Long enough for life to return, but we didn't know how long it would actually take. Estimates ranged from 50 years to 500 years. Some scientists said Earth would never fully recover, that we destroyed it permanently, that humanity would have to find a new home among the stars or live forever on the arcs. But we kept monitoring. Every year we sent unmanned probes to Earth's surface, measuring radiation levels, atmospheric composition, temperature, looking for signs of recovery, and year after year the readings improved slowly, too slowly, but improving. And now, 50 years after we left, the probes are telling us what we desperately wanted to hear. Earth is habitable again. The radiation has decayed to survivable levels, the atmosphere has cleared, the temperature has normalized, life has returned, we can go home.
The specifics are crucial, so let me break them down. Radiation levels at Earth's surface are now below 100 millisieverts per year. That's within the range humans can tolerate long term. Not ideal, but survivable. The nuclear winter has ended. The ash and particulates that block the sun have settled or dispersed. Solar radiation is reaching the surface again. Temperatures have returned to near pre-war levels, actually slightly warmer in some regions due to the greenhouse effect, but within habitable range. The atmosphere has cleared significantly. Oxygen levels are at 19%, down from the pre-war 21%, but adequate for human respiration. Carbon dioxide is elevated, but not dangerously so. And most remarkably, there's evidence of ecological recovery. The probes detected vegetation across multiple continents, forests regrowing, grasslands returning, water bodies that aren't radioactive wastelands. Earth isn't the planet we left, but it's a planet that can support human life again.
The leadership of the ARC fleet made the announcement official 2 hours ago. Fleet Admiral Chen addressed the entire fleet, all 7 ARCs simultaneously. 3.5 million people learning together that we're going home. I want to read the Admiral's full statement because it's historic. People of the ARC, Fleet, I come to you tonight with news I wasn't certain I'd ever deliver. For 50 years we've lived in these ships. 50 years of artificial gravity and recycled air. 50 years looking at Earth from orbit, wondering if we'd ever see our homeworld up close again. Many of you were born on these ships. You've never known Earth except as a blue and green ball in the darkness, but your parents remember. Your grandparents remember. They remember cities and oceans, mountains and forests, rain and wind and the smell of grass. They remember home. Tonight, I'm here to tell you, we're going back. Earth is habitable. The long wait is over. We begin the descent in 30 days. We're going home.
The reaction across the fleet has been overwhelming. People are crying, celebrating, embracing. For those who remember Earth, those who were adults during the Great Departure, This is the fulfillment of a dream they thought might never come true. They left Earth assuming they'd die in space, that only their children or grandchildren might return, but they're going to see Earth again, walk on solid ground again, feel natural gravity, breathe unfiltered air. That's everything. For those born on the arks, the second generation, now adults themselves, and the third generation, now children, this is different. They've never known Earth except through stories and archived videos. Earth is mythology to them, the promised land, the place they were always told they'd go someday, and now someday is here. It's real. In 30 days, they'll set foot on a planet for the first time in their lives. That's overwhelming in a different way.
But there's complexity here that we need to discuss. The decision to return isn't unanimous. There's a significant minority, maybe 20% of the fleet, who don't want to go back. They've built lives on the arks, communities. The ships are home to them. Some don't trust Earth, don't believe it's really safe, fear the radiation or the unknown. Others have philosophical objections. They believe humanity should move forward, not backward, should colonize other star systems rather than return to the planet we destroyed. There's a movement called the Pioneers who want to continue into deep space, find new worlds, start fresh somewhere humanity hasn't ruined. This is causing tension. Families are divided. Some want to return to Earth. Others want to continue into space. The fleet leadership has stated that anyone who wants to stay on the arks can do so. The ships will remain functional, but the majority will return to Earth. That's the plan.
Let's talk about the logistics of returning, because this is an enormous undertaking. 7 arks in orbit, each carrying 500,000 people. 3.5 million humans total need to be transported to Earth's surface. The arks can't land. They were never designed for atmospheric entry. They're orbital habitats, massive cylinders spinning for artificial gravity. They'll remain in orbit permanently. So we need to use shuttles. Each ark has a fleet of landing craft designed specifically for this purpose. Each shuttle can carry 200 people and cargo. The descent will take months, possibly a year. We'll establish a base camp first, then a settlement, then multiple settlements, eventually cities. But it's gradual. We can't move 3.5 million people overnight. Priority will be given to essential personnel first: engineers, agriculturalists, medical staff. People needed to establish infrastructure, then families, then general population. This is organized, planned, but it's still going to be chaotic.
The question everyone's asking, where do we land? Earth is a big planet. Where do we establish the first settlement? The reconnaissance data shows that some regions recovered better than others. North America is surprisingly habitable. The nuclear winter preserved some areas that might have burned otherwise. The Pacific Northwest looks promising. Forests have regrown. The Columbia River Basin shows low radiation. South America is similar. The Amazon recovered faster than anyone expected. Tropical ecosystems are resilient. Europe is more problematic. Higher radiation levels due to targeting density. Too many warheads hit too close together. Asia is mixed. Some areas habitable, others still too hot. Australia looks good, isolated, less targeted. Africa is variable, but the decision has been made. The first landing site will be in what used to be the Pacific Northwest region of North America, specifically the area that was Oregon and Washington. Low radiation, good water sources, forests, moderate climate. It's the best option.
But here's where things get interesting and unexpected. The reconnaissance probes sent to the landing site area detected something impossible, something that shouldn't exist. Structures, built structures, not ruins from before the war, new construction, recent. And more than that, heat signatures, movement, signs of human habitation. At first, Command thought it was an error, sensor malfunction, but multiple probes confirmed it independently. There are humans on Earth, living humans. Not just survivors struggling in the radiation, but communities, settlements, thriving populations. This is impossible. Earth was supposed to be uninhabitable. The radiation should have killed everyone who didn't evacuate, but somehow, impossibly, humans survived. And not just survived, they've rebuilt. This changes everything.
The discovery of survivors has shocked the entire fleet. How did they survive? The radiation should have been lethal for decades. The nuclear winter should have caused mass starvation. The collapse of civilization should have made organized survival impossible, but they're there. The probes estimate at least 50,000 people in the Pacific Northwest region alone. If that density is representative globally, there could be millions of survivors on Earth, millions of humans who never left, who endured the nuclear winter and the radiation and the collapse, who rebuilt in the ruins, and now we're coming back to a planet that isn't empty, that's inhabited. by humans who don't know about the arcs, who think they're alone, who've been alone for 50 years. What happens when we make contact? How do they react to 3.5 million people arriving from space? This is first contact, but between two branches of humanity that diverged 50 years ago.
The ethical and practical implications are staggering. We were planning to return to an empty planet, to reclaim Earth as if it were ours by right, but it's not empty. It's inhabited. Do we still have the right to land wherever we want? To establish settlements? To bring 3.5 million people to a planet where others have survived and rebuilt? The survivors on Earth didn't abandon the planet. They stayed, they endured, they rebuilt. Don't they have a claim to Earth that supersedes ours? We ran away, they stayed. That's going to be a point of contention. On the other hand, we're all human. The survivors on Earth are our people, our families, descendants of those who couldn't be evacuated or chose to stay. We have as much right to Earth as they do, but there's going to be tension. Conflict over resources, over land, over who has authority. This is going to be complicated.
Fleet Command is scrambling to develop a contact protocol. How do we announce ourselves? How do we explain that 3.5 million humans have been living in orbit for 50 years? How do we approach the survivors without seeming like an invasion force? The plan is to send a small delegation first, a contact team in a single shuttle, land in a neutral location, attempt communication, explain who we are, offer cooperation, find out how they survived, understand their society and their needs, and crucially, negotiate landing rights in settlement areas. This is diplomacy. This is first contact protocol, even though we're the same species. Because after 50 years of separation, we might not be the same anymore. We've evolved separately. Different experiences, different cultures, different technologies. We're meeting as strangers who share a common past but very different present.
Let me share what we know about the survivors from the reconnaissance data because it's fascinating and puzzling. The structures detected are primitive by our standards, wood and stone primarily, some metal, but no advanced technology visible. No power generation that we can detect, no radio transmissions. They're living at a pre-industrial technology level from what we can see. This makes sense in one way. The electromagnetic pulse from the nuclear strikes would have destroyed most electronics. The infrastructure for advanced technology collapsed. They had to rebuild from basics, but it's been 50 years. You'd expect more progress, unless the radiation or the nuclear winter set them back further than we thought, unless they're still recovering, unless they've chosen a different path. We don't know. We'll find out when we make contact, but it's clear that Earth survivors and Ark humans have taken very different technological paths.
There's another possibility that some people are raising, and it's uncomfortable. What if the radiation changed them? What if 50 years of exposure to elevated radiation levels caused mutations? Genetic changes? We know radiation causes mutations, usually harmful, but sometimes adaptive. What if the survivors aren't exactly human anymore? What if they've evolved, adapted to the radiation in ways that make them different from us? This is speculation, but it's being discussed. If they're genetically different, does that change how we approach contact? Does that change whether we're still the same species? These are questions that sound like science fiction, but might be very real. We won't know until we make contact and can study them. But it's a possibility we need to consider.
The contact team is being assembled now. Volunteers are being selected carefully, diplomats, scientists, linguists, medical personnel, security, people who can handle unexpected situations, people who can communicate clearly and empathetically, people who can assess the survivors' technology and society quickly, and crucially, people who are willing to take the risk. We don't know how the survivors will react to our arrival. They might be welcoming, might see us as rescuers or reunited family, or they might be hostile, might see us as invaders or threats, might have developed cultures that view outsiders as enemies. We don't know. The contact team is volunteering to find out. They'll be the first humans from the Arks to set foot on Earth in 50 years. The first to meet the survivors, the first to begin bridging 50 years of separation.
I want to read from a statement by Dr. Sarah Chen, the sociologist who's been selected to lead the contact team. This was released an hour ago. I was 5 years old when we left Earth. I barely remember it. I have vague memories of sky and grass, the smell of rain, my grandmother's garden. But mostly I grew up on Ark 3. This ship is home to me, but Earth is homeland. There's a difference. And now I'm being given the extraordinary privilege of being among the first to return, to set foot on Earth again, to meet the humans who stayed behind. I'm nervous, excited, terrified, honored. This is the most important mission in human history since the departure. We're not just making contact, we're determining the future of humanity, whether we unite or divide, whether we cooperate or conflict. I'll do everything in my power to ensure it's the former, to bridge the gap, to find common ground, to remember that we're all human regardless of where we spent the last 50 years. Wish us luck. We're going to need it.
The contact team launches in 72 hours. 3 days from now, they'll descend to Earth's surface. They've selected a landing site near one of the survivor settlements detected by the probes. Close enough to make contact quickly, far enough to not seem immediately threatening. The shuttle will land in an open area, visible from the settlement. The team will approach slowly, openly, carrying no visible weapons, carrying symbols of peace, white flags which hopefully still have meaning, carrying gifts, technology, medicine, seeds, things that show goodwill, and carrying communication devices, ways to translate and record, to establish dialogue. This is planned carefully, but plans fail when they meet reality. We're about to find out what reality looks like on Earth after 50 years.
Let's talk about what life has been like on the arks for 50 years, because context matters. The 7th-generation ships were marvels of engineering, each a cylinder 10 miles long and 2 miles in diameter, spinning to create artificial gravity through centrifugal force. Each ark is a complete ecosystem: agriculture in hydroponic farms, water recycling, air processing, power from fusion reactors. Each ark was designed to be self-sufficient indefinitely, and for 50 years, they've worked. We've maintained population stability at 500,000 per ark through careful birth control and family planning. We've maintained our technology, our culture, our knowledge. We've lived relatively comfortably in artificial environments. But there are costs. We've lived without weather, without seasons, without natural day and night cycles beyond what we simulate, without wildlife beyond what we brought, without horizons. Everything is contained, controlled, artificial. People born on the arks don't know anything different, but those who remember Earth feel the loss every day.
There have been challenges over 50 years, psychological problems from confinement, depression, anxiety, generational conflict between those who remember Earth and those who don't, political tensions over resources and decision-making, religious movements that arose from isolation. Some view Earth as sacred, others view the arks as humanity's true home now. There have been criminal acts, murders, suicides, more than we'd like. The psychological toll of multi-generational space habitation has been studied extensively, but overall, we've survived. We've maintained civilization. We've preserved human knowledge and culture. We've prepared for this moment, returned to Earth. Children are educated about Earth geography, ecology, history, trained in skills needed for planetary life, agriculture, construction, exploration. The arks have been training centers for return. Now that training will be tested.
We're receiving word that the crew of the contact shuttle has been finalized. Let me read the list, because these people are about to become historic figures. Dr. Sarah Chen, sociologist and team leader, is mentioned. Dr. James Park, ecologist and environmental scientist. Dr. Maria Rodriguez, physician and biologist. David Foster, engineer and technology specialist. Lieutenant Commander Alex Morrison, security chief. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, linguist and anthropologist. And finally, Marcus Webb, who's a documentary filmmaker and will record everything. 7 people. That's the team that will make first contact with Earth survivors. 7 people who will represent 3.5 million humans from the arks. That's enormous pressure, enormous responsibility. They're being briefed constantly over the next 72 hours, scenarios, contingencies, protocols, but ultimately they'll be making decisions in real time based on what they encounter. We're giving them authority to negotiate on behalf of the fleet within certain parameters. This is trust. This is necessity.
Let's talk about what we think happened on Earth during the 50 years we were gone. This is speculation based on historical parallels and survival scenarios. The first years would have been the worst. Nuclear winter blocking the sun, temperatures dropping catastrophically, crops failing, starvation, radiation sickness killing millions more. The survivors would have been those in remote areas less affected by the initial blasts, those who found shelter, those who had access to food stores or could hunt and forage. The collapse would have been total. No electricity, no supply chains, no government, no medical care beyond basics. Survivors would have banded together in small groups, tens or hundreds, sharing resources, protecting each other, tribal basically. After 5 to 10 years, the nuclear winter would have eased, the sun returning, temperatures rising. The survivors could begin agriculture again, start rebuilding. But radiation would still be high, life expectancy would be reduced, cancer rates elevated, births would be affected, mutations possible, the population would have remained low.
Over decades, the communities would have grown, settlements forming, basic governance emerging, probably feudal or tribal structures, strong leaders who could protect and provide. By now, 50 years later, there might be second or third generation survivors who've only heard about the old world from their grandparents, who've grown up in this new post-nuclear Earth, who've adapted culturally and possibly biologically. The probes show they've built settlements, established agriculture, survived. That suggests successful adaptation. But what kind of society? What kind of culture? Did they preserve knowledge from before the war, or did they lose it? Do they have writing, books, education, or have they regressed to oral traditions? We don't know. The contact team will find out. And what they find will determine how we approach integration or coexistence.
There's a crucial question. Do the Earth survivors know about the arcs? In the chaos of the war and the immediate aftermath, information about the Ark Initiative might not have reached everyone. The evacuations happened quickly, in secret in many cases. Not everyone knew they were happening, so the survivors might not know that 3.5 million humans escaped to space. They might think they're the only humans left, the only ones who survived, that we're all dead. Or they might know, might have preserved that knowledge, might have been watching the stars and wondering if we'd ever come back. That changes the dynamic of contact significantly. If they don't know about us, our arrival will be shocking, incomprehensible. We'll be aliens arriving from space. If they do know, we're the long-lost members of humanity returning home. The reaction will be very different. We'll know soon which it is.
I want to share something personal because I think it matters. I was 15 when we left Earth. I remember the departure clearly, the chaos, the fear, knowing that most people weren't going to be evacuated, that billions would be left behind to die. I remember my parents explaining that we were lucky, that we were selected, that we'd survive, but I also remember feeling guilty, survivor's guilt before we'd even survived, watching Earth shrink in the viewports, knowing people down there were suffering, were dying, and we were leaving them. I've carried that guilt for 50 years. And now, learning that some survived, it's complicated. Relief that they made it, that humanity on Earth endured, but also anxiety. What do we say to them? How do we justify leaving? How do we explain that we saved ourselves while they suffered? That's going to be a difficult conversation for everyone who left, for everyone who stayed. Both sides have trauma. Both sides have resentment. Finding reconciliation will be challenging.
That's profound and important, Marcus. Everyone on the arcs carries some version of that guilt. We abandoned Earth. Yes, we had reasons. Yes, staying meant death. But we left billions behind, and some of them survived against impossible odds. They endured hell, and we lived in relative comfort and space. That's going to create tension. The survivors might see us as cowards who ran, as privileged who had access to escape, as deserters. We might see them as, what? Heroes, survivors? Or as people who had no choice. This isn't good versus bad. This is two groups who faced impossible situations and made different choices or had different choices made for them. And now we're reuniting. That's going to require understanding on both sides. Grace, forgiveness, willingness to acknowledge pain and move forward. That's a lot to ask, but it's necessary.
The Contact shuttle launches in 72 hours. Let's talk about what happens during the descent. The shuttle will take about 2 hours to descend from orbit to the surface. During that time, the team will be scanning continuously, looking for more details about the survivors, trying to assess population, technology level, social organization. They'll be looking for the best place to land. And they'll be trying to communicate, broadcasting on all frequencies, using every language in our database, announcing their arrival, explaining who they are, hoping someone on Earth has radio equipment and is listening. That's probably optimistic. If the survivors are at pre-industrial technology, they probably don't have radio, but we're trying. The worst case scenario is landing and having no way to communicate except face-to-face. That's more dangerous, more prone to misunderstanding. But it's possible that's what we're facing.
Let me read the message that will be broadcast during the descent. This was carefully crafted by linguists and diplomats. People of Earth, this is a message from the Ark Fleet. We are humans, your relatives. Your ancestors left Earth 50 years ago during the Great War. We have lived in space. We have survived. We have waited for Earth to heal. Now we are returning. We come in peace. We mean you no harm. We want to reunite with our human family. We bring gifts. We bring knowledge. We bring hope. Please, if you can hear this message, respond. Tell us how to find you. Tell us how to help. We are coming home. We hope you will welcome us. That message will be broadcast on a loop in multiple languages. English, Spanish, Mandarin, Hindi, Arabic, Russian, French, Portuguese, hoping that at least one language is still spoken, hoping someone can understand, hoping for a response that tells us we're not landing among people who can't comprehend who we are.
There's been debate about whether to reveal our full numbers immediately. Do we tell the survivors that 3.5 million people are in orbit, that we're coming to land en masse over the coming months? Or do we start with just the contact team and reveal the fleet later? The decision has been to be transparent from the beginning. No deception, no hiding our numbers. The survivors will see the arcs in the sky at night. They're visible from Earth, 7 bright points of light that move together. If the survivors have been watching the sky at all, they've probably noticed them, wondered what they are. So we tell them the truth. 3.5 million humans returning home. That's going to be shocking, potentially frightening, an invasion from their perspective. But lying or hiding the truth is worse. We need to start with honesty. Build trust from the beginning. Accept that it will be difficult and work through it.
We're getting word that the probes have sent back more detailed images of the survivor settlements. I'm looking at these now, and they're remarkable. The settlements are larger than initial estimates suggested. The main settlement in the Pacific Northwest region appears to house at least 5,000 people. That's a significant population center. The structures are sophisticated, not crude shelters, but well-built buildings, wood construction primarily, stone foundations, what appears to be a central gathering area or plaza, agricultural fields surrounding the settlement, organized rows suggesting planned farming, evidence of animal husbandry, livestock enclosures. This is not a struggling survival camp. This is an established community, a thriving settlement. These people have not just survived, they've built a civilization. That changes our assumptions completely.
There are more settlements visible in the region, at least 10 within a 100-mile radius. If each houses thousands of people, we're looking at tens of thousands in this region alone, possibly hundreds of thousands across North America, millions globally as we speculated. This isn't a remnant population barely clinging to life. This is a thriving human civilization that rebuilt from the ashes. They've been doing fine without us. That's wonderful. That's humanity proving we're resilient and adaptable. But it also means they don't need us. They don't need rescuing. They've rescued themselves. So what's our role? What do we offer them? What do they offer us? We need each other for different reasons now. Not rescue, but partnership. Not charity, but cooperation. That's actually better. That's a foundation for real coexistence. But it requires rethinking our entire approach.
I want to talk about the children born on the arks because their perspective matters enormously. Second and third generation, people who've never known Earth. For them, this return is frightening as much as exciting. Earth is alien to them. Gravity will be different. Earth's gravity is stronger than the artificial gravity on the arks. Air will smell different. The sky will be bigger than anything they've experienced. Weather will be unpredictable and potentially dangerous. There are animals and insects they've never encountered, diseases they haven't been exposed to. Earth is dangerous in ways the arks aren't. And these children are being asked to leave the only home they've known to go to this strange, dangerous place. Some are refusing. Some families are staying on the arks rather than force children to a place they don't want to go. That's causing heartbreak, families splitting. But it's understandable. Change is hard, especially when you're leaving safety for uncertainty.
There's also excitement among the young. Adventure, the chance to explore a whole planet instead of being confined to a ship. The chance to see oceans and mountains, to experience weather, to see stars from the ground instead of from space. That's compelling. Many young people are eager to go. They've been raised on stories of Earth, shown videos and images, taught Earth ecology and geography. They want to experience it firsthand. They want to swim in oceans, climb mountains, see forests, experience rain and snow. These things are mythology to them, and now mythology is becoming reality. That's intoxicating. So the younger generation is divided, some excited, some terrified. Most are both. That's natural. That's healthy. Change should be a little scary. It means it matters.
The contact team is conducting final training now. Physical conditioning, preparing for Earth's gravity, which is about 15% stronger than the Ark's artificial gravity. They're spending time in the high-gravity sections of the ship, building strength, cardiovascular endurance, preparing their bodies for the stress. They're also drilling on survival scenarios. What if the shuttle crashes? What if they're attacked? What if they encounter hostile wildlife? What if disease exposure compromises the team? They're preparing for everything that can go wrong. They're also studying everything we know about pre-war Pacific Northwest ecology, learning about plants and animals they might encounter, learning survival skills, fire making, water purification, shelter construction, just in case. They're as prepared as we can make them. But ultimately, They're going into the unknown. No amount of preparation covers that.
Let's talk about the technology gap and what it means. The ARCs have maintained advanced technology, fusion power, quantum computing, advanced medicine, genetic engineering. We've continued advancing scientifically over 50 years. The survivors on Earth, by contrast, appear to be at pre-industrial or early industrial technology levels. That's a gap of hundreds of years of technological development. What does that mean for our relationship? We have enormous technological advantages. We could help them advance rapidly, share knowledge, share technology, lift them to our level, but there's danger in that. Rapid technological advancement can be destabilizing, can destroy cultures, can create dependency. We don't want to colonize them culturally or technologically. We want to cooperate as equals. But how do you have an equal relationship when one side has overwhelming technological superiority? That's the challenge. That's what the contact team needs to navigate carefully.
There's a term for this in anthropology, the prime directive from old science fiction. The idea that advanced civilizations shouldn't interfere with less advanced ones, shouldn't impose their technology or culture, should let civilizations develop naturally. That's idealistic, but probably impractical in our situation. We're not alien observers. We're the same species. We share a history. We're family, separated for 50 years. We can't just observe without interfering. We're going to interact. We're going to influence each other. The question is how to do it ethically, how to share without dominating, how to help without undermining their autonomy. These are difficult questions with no clear answers. The contact team has been given guidelines: offer, don't impose, share, don't dictate, learn from them as much as we teach, respect their culture and choices. But in practice, this will be complicated. Power imbalances always are.
We're at the 48-hour mark now, 2 days until the contact team launches. Across the fleet, people are watching and waiting. This is all anyone is talking about. What will the survivors be like? How will they react? What will Earth look like? Speculation is rampant. Some people are optimistic, expecting joyful reunions, shared stories, celebration. Others are pessimistic, expecting hostility, conflict, rejection. The truth is probably somewhere in between. The survivors will be human, complex. Some will welcome us, some won't. They'll have their own politics and factions, their own hopes and fears. They won't be monolithic any more than we are. Understanding that complexity is important. We can't approach them as a single entity. We're approaching multiple communities with different experiences and perspectives. We need to be prepared for diversity of response.
Let me share a message we received from a listener on ARC 5. This is from Jennifer Morrison. I'm 25 years old. I've never known anything but this ship. My grandparents remember Earth, but they're old now. Their memories are fading. They talk about rain and wind and the smell of oceans, but I can't really imagine it. I'm excited to see Earth, but I'm also terrified. What if I don't like it? What if it's too big, too open, too unpredictable? The Ark is safe, controlled. I know every corridor, every person. Earth is chaos, billions of variables I can't control. And now we're learning there are people there, people who survived. That makes it scarier somehow. What if they don't want us? What if we're invading their world? I wish we could just stay in space, but I know that's not the future. The future is Earth. So I'll go. I'll try, but I'm scared.
That message resonates because it's honest. A lot of people feel that way. The unknown is frightening. Change is frightening. And this is the biggest change imaginable. Trading artificial safety for natural chaos. Trading the known for the unknown. That's terrifying. But it's also necessary. The arcs can't sustain humanity forever. Eventually systems fail. Redundancies are exhausted. We need a planet. We need resources we can't manufacture or recycle. We need space to grow. Earth is our future, whether we're comfortable with that or not. So we go, we face the fear, we embrace the unknown. That's what humans do. We explore, we adapt, we survive. Jennifer and millions like her will go to Earth scared and uncertain, and they'll adapt. And they'll find that Earth is home in ways the arcs never were. That's the hope.
The contact team has released individual statements, personal messages before they depart. Let me share a few because they're moving. Dr. Sarah Chen, I'm doing this for my grandmother. She died 5 years ago. She never stopped talking about Earth, never stopped hoping we'd return. I promised her I'd set foot on Earth for both of us. I'm keeping that promise. Dr. James Park, as an ecologist, I've studied Earth ecosystems my entire career from textbooks and archived data. Now I get to see a real ecosystem, a recovering ecosystem. That's the opportunity of multiple lifetimes. I'm honored and humbled. Lieutenant Commander Alex Morrison, My job is to keep the team safe. That's what I'm focused on. The historic significance is for others to contemplate. I'm concerned with practical security, making sure everyone comes back alive. That's my mission. These are the voices of the people who will represent us. Good people, brave people. We're lucky to have them.
We're at the 24-hour mark, 1 day until launch. The Contact shuttle has been prepared, loaded with supplies, equipment, gifts for the survivors, medical supplies, seeds for crops, tools, technology that might be useful, solar panels, water purifiers, basic electronics, things that can improve quality of life without overwhelming their society. The team has said their goodbyes to family and friends. They're in final briefings now, last-minute details, contingency plans, communication protocols, how to stay in touch with the fleet, what to do if things go wrong. This is real now. Tomorrow they descend. Tomorrow we make contact. Tomorrow everything changes. The anticipation is almost unbearable. 50 years of waiting culminating in one moment, one landing, one meeting between two branches of humanity.
I want to talk about what the survivors might think when they see the shuttle land. Put yourself in their position. You've lived your entire life on a post-apocalyptic Earth. You know or think you know that everyone else died in the war. You're rebuilding from nothing. And then one day a spacecraft descends from the sky, lands near your settlement, opens up and people emerge, people in strange clothing, speaking your language but with odd accents, carrying unimaginable technology, claiming to be humans from space. How do you react? With wonder, with fear, with disbelief? Do you see them as saviors, as invaders, as ghosts, as gods? We don't know. We can't know. First contact is unpredictable, even when both sides are human, maybe especially when both sides are human, because we'll expect understanding and might encounter incomprehension.
There's one scenario that keeps me awake, and I need to voice it. What if the survivors aren't friendly? What if they're hostile? 50 years of hardship can harden people, can create cultures built on survival at any cost, on viewing outsiders as threats, on taking what you need by force. If the survivors have developed that kind of culture, violent, xenophobic, predatory, our contact team is walking into danger. They're lightly armed, carrying only defensive weapons meant to establish peace, not fight. If the survivors attack, the team is vulnerable, and we can't send help quickly. We're in orbit. It takes 2 hours to descend. The team could be captured or killed before we could respond. That's the risk. That's what they're accepting by volunteering. We hope it doesn't come to that. We hope the survivors are decent people who will welcome contact, but we have to acknowledge the possibility that they're not.
Let's talk about the best case scenario to balance that pessimism. Best case, the contact team lands. The survivors have been watching the arcs in the sky. They know we're here. They've been waiting for us to return. They welcome us with joy and relief. They've preserved knowledge of the old world. They have books, records, stories. They've maintained some technology. They're excited to reconnect with the rest of humanity. They want to learn from us and teach us what they've learned. We establish immediate rapport, begin cooperating, share resources, begin planning integration of our two societies. Within months, the first major landing of ARC survivors happens peacefully. We establish cities together, combine our technologies and knowledge. Within years, Earth is thriving again. Both populations benefiting from the reunion. That's the hope. That's what we're working toward. Whether we achieve it depends on the next 48 hours.
We're getting word that the launch has been moved up. The contact team will depart in 12 hours instead of 24. Command has decided there's no point in waiting. The team is ready. The shuttle is ready. The survivors aren't going anywhere. Let's begin contact as soon as possible. Get answers to our questions. Establish communication. Begin the process of reunification or coexistence. 12 hours. That's all the time we have left before everything changes. I'm watching the clock, counting down, wondering what we'll learn, what the survivors will be like, whether this gamble, leaving Earth, surviving in space, returning, will pay off, whether humanity can unite after 50 years of separation, or whether we've become two different peoples who can't reconcile. We're about to find out.
The crew is boarding the shuttle now. This is happening. We're going to provide live coverage of the descent and landing. We'll be broadcasting the entire mission, sharing it with the fleet in real time. Everyone will experience this together. 3.5 million people watching as 7 representatives descend to Earth. As we make contact with survivors we didn't know existed. As we begin writing the next chapter of human history. This is unprecedented. This is historic. And we're all witnesses. We're all participants. Because what happens in the next hours will determine the future for all of us. Whether we're Ark-born or Earth-born, we're all human. We all have a stake in this succeeding. So watch with us, hope with us, pray with us if you're inclined. This is humanity's moment.
The shuttle is launching now. I'm watching the departure on the monitors. The shuttle detaching from Ark 1. Thrusters firing, beginning the descent burn toward Earth. The crew is strapped in. Systems are nominal. Communication is clear. Dr. Chen is reporting that the team is ready, anxious but ready. The shuttle will take 2 hours to descend to the surface. During that time, we'll monitor continuously. We'll broadcast their communications. We'll share what they see through the shuttle's cameras. This is it. After 50 years of waiting, after decades of wondering if Earth would ever be habitable, after learning that humans somehow survived, this is the moment we make contact, the moment we go home, the moment humanity reunites. Let's experience it together.
The shuttle is entering the upper atmosphere now, 30 minutes into the descent. The crew is feeling the effects of re-entry, the shaking, the heat, the stress on the vehicle, but everything is holding. The shuttle is performing perfectly. They're beginning to see Earth through the windows. The blue and green and brown we've all been staring at for 50 years, but from inside the atmosphere now. Dr. Chen is describing it. It's beautiful, more beautiful than any simulation. The sky is so blue, clouds below us, white and puffy. I can see the curvature of the horizon. I can see green, forest. I can see the ocean. My God, the ocean, it's really there. Earth is really there. We're really going home. Her voice is breaking. She's crying. So am I. So are millions of people watching this across the fleet.
1 hour into the descent. The shuttle has deployed its wings and is gliding now, no longer burning through the atmosphere but flying, descending gradually toward the landing site. The crew can see land features now, mountains, rivers, forests. Dr. Park is analyzing what he sees. The ecological recovery is remarkable. I'm seeing massive forest coverage, conifers primarily. Douglas fir probably, western red cedar. The understory looks healthy. I'm seeing meadows, grasslands. This is near complete ecological restoration. Whatever happened during the nuclear winter didn't permanently damage these ecosystems. They've bounced back. Life finds a way. That cliche is true. Life really does find a way. His voice is filled with wonder, with professional excitement. This is what he studied his entire career. Now he's seeing it firsthand.
The shuttle is broadcasting the promised message now, looping in multiple languages. People of Earth, this is a message from the Ark fleet. We are humans returning home. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, hoping someone is listening, hoping someone has radio equipment. So far, no response. Just silence on all channels. That's not surprising if the survivors don't have radio technology, but it's disappointing. It means contact will have to be face-to-face, more unpredictable, more dangerous, but that's what they're prepared for. The shuttle is approaching the landing site now, 15 minutes to touchdown. The crew can see the survivor settlement. Dr. Chen is describing it. I see the settlement. It's larger than we thought, maybe 50 buildings, wood structures organized in a grid pattern. There are people. I can see people, hundreds of them. They're gathering, looking up at us. They see the shuttle. They're pointing. Some are running toward us or away. I can't tell. We're landing in the field north of the settlement, half a mile away. Not too close, not too far. This is really happening.
10 minutes to landing. The shuttle is decelerating, coming in for vertical landing. Thrusters firing to slow the descent. The crew is silent now, focused. The enormity of what they're doing. Dr. Chen breaks the silence. Whatever happens, whatever we find down there, I want to say I'm proud to be part of this. Proud to represent humanity. Proud to be the first to return. For my grandmother, for everyone who didn't make it off Earth. For everyone watching from the Arks. We're doing this for all of us. We're going home. 5 minutes to landing. The shuttle is descending slowly. 50 meters. 40. 30. The crew can see the ground clearly now. Grass, wildflowers. The field is beautiful. Earth is beautiful. 20 meters. 10. Touchdown. The shuttle has landed. The landing gear has compressed. Engines are powering down. After 50 years, humans from the Arks are on Earth's surface again. We're home.
The crew is conducting post-landing checks, making sure the shuttle is stable, making sure the external environment is safe. Dr. Rodriguez is monitoring atmospheric readings. Air composition is good. Oxygen at 19%, no toxic gases detected. Radiation levels are elevated, but within safe range for limited exposure. Temperature is 18 degrees Celsius. Comfortable, wind is light. We're clear for exterior operations. The crew is suiting up, not full protective suits, just light environmental gear, showing they trust Earth, showing they're not afraid. Though they are afraid. They're terrified. But they're going outside anyway. Lieutenant Morrison is checking weapons, sidearms only, concealed. They're carrying gifts and communication devices visibly, weapons hidden, appearing non-threatening while maintaining capability to defend if necessary. It's a careful balance.
The crew is at the airlock, preparing to open the door. This is the moment. First contact, Dr. Chen addresses the fleet. This is it. We're opening the door. We're stepping onto Earth. Wish us luck. See you on the other side. The airlock is cycling. The door is opening. Atmosphere is equalizing. And now they're outside. The crew has stepped onto Earth's surface. Dr. Chen again. The ground is solid, feels strange after 50 years of artificial gravity, heavier. My legs are working hard, but it feels right, natural. The air smells incredible. I can't describe it. Green, fresh, alive. There's a breeze, actual wind. I can hear it in the trees. I can hear birds. Oh my God, birds. They survived. Life survived. We're really here. She's crying. They're all crying, standing on Earth, feeling wind, smelling air. After 50 years of recycled everything, this is overwhelming.
The crew is moving away from the shuttle now, walking through the field toward the settlement, slowly, deliberately, hands visible, carrying a white flag, carrying gifts in containers, approaching peacefully. The survivors have seen them. A group is forming at the edge of the settlement, maybe 100 people. They're watching, not approaching yet, just watching. The contact team is covering half the distance. Quarter mile remaining. The survivors can see them clearly now, see that they're human, see that they're unarmed except for what they're carrying. Some of the survivors are moving forward now, cautiously, curiously. A delegation forming, adults primarily, men and women, some carrying tools that could be weapons. Cautious but not fleeing. This is good. This is first contact happening. Two groups of humans approaching each other. Families separated for 50 years, reuniting or meeting as strangers. We're about to find out which.
The two groups are close now, 50 meters apart. They've stopped. Looking at each other across the distance, Dr. Chen steps forward alone, raises her hand in greeting. Universal gesture, peace. She's speaking. Hello? We're humans. We're from the Ark Fleet. We left Earth 50 years ago. We've come back. We come in peace. We're family. Can you understand me? She's speaking English, hoping they understand. The survivor group is conferring. Then one steps forward, a woman, middle-aged, strong. She's carrying a staff. She approaches Dr. Chen carefully. They're facing each other now, 10 feet apart. The woman speaks. We understand. We remember the ships that left. We didn't think anyone survived. We thought we were alone. You're really from the sky ships. Her English is accented but clear. They understand each other. This is incredible. Contact is successful. Communication is possible.
Dr. Chen is responding, yes, from the Ark Fleet, 7 ships in orbit, 3.5 million people. We've been waiting for Earth to heal. Now we've come home. We didn't know anyone survived down here. We thought everyone was gone, but you made it. You rebuilt. We're amazed. We're grateful. We want to meet you, to understand how you survived, to see if we can help each other. The woman is processing this. 3.5 million people. That's enormous compared to their population. She's conferring with her group again. Intense discussion. Then she turns back. I am Elder Sarah. I speak for Valley Haven. Come, we'll talk. We'll share food. We'll hear your story and tell ours. Come. She's inviting them into the settlement. This is acceptance. This is welcome. The contact team is following her. They're entering the settlement. This is first contact. This is humanity reuniting. And so far it's peaceful.
The crew is inside the settlement now. They're being surrounded by curious survivors, people touching their clothing, examining the gifts they're carrying, children staring wide-eyed. The survivors are humans, fully human from what we can see. No obvious mutations, healthy, well-fed. They're wearing simple clothing, wool and leather primarily, handmade but well-made. These people have skills, have crafts, have culture. They're leading the crew to a central building, larger than the others, the meeting hall perhaps. Elder Sarah is explaining, we are Valley Haven, 4,000 people, one of 7 settlements in the valley. We've been here since the Reconstruction, 20 years rebuilding after the winter. We farm, we hunt, we trade, we survive. We remember the before times, the old world. We keep the stories, keep the knowledge. We knew others might return. We hoped, we waited, and now you're here.
They're entering the meeting hall. It's a large wooden structure, a long table in the center, benches around it, simple but functional. The crew is being offered seats. Food is being brought, bread, vegetables, meat, water. The survivors are showing hospitality. This is incredibly positive. Dr. Chen is explaining more. We have 7 ships in orbit, the Arks, each carrying 500,000 people. We want to return to Earth, to land, to settle, to rebuild civilization together. But we don't want to intrude, don't want to take what's yours. You survived. You rebuilt. This is your world now. We're asking permission, asking cooperation. We can help each other. We have technology, knowledge, medicine. You have experience surviving here, knowledge of the land. Together we're stronger. Will you work with us?
Elder Sarah is conferring with other leaders who've joined them. The conversation is intense. They're discussing in low voices. Then she responds, this is big. Too big for one elder to decide. We need to consult the council. All 7 settlements. This affects all of us. 3.5 million people. That's more than all survivors in North America. Maybe more than all survivors on Earth. You understand our concern? We're few. You're many. What if you don't ask? What if you take? We've fought hard for what we have. We won't give it up without fight, but we're not fools. We can't fight sky ships. So we ask, what do you want? Really want? Land? Resources? Control? This is the key question. This is what determines whether this works. Dr. Chen responds, we want home. We want Earth, not your settlement, not your lands. There's plenty of Earth. We can settle elsewhere, build our own cities. And yes, we'd like cooperation, trade, sharing knowledge, but we're not conquerors. We're refugees returning home. We ask you to understand that.
The discussion continues for hours. The crew answering questions, explaining the arcs, explaining what life has been like in space, showing technology they brought, solar panels, water purifiers, medical equipment. The survivors are fascinated, touching everything, asking how it works. Some are skeptical, some are excited. It's mixed. But the overall tone is positive, cautious but positive. Elder Sarah finally speaks. We'll take your message to the council. Tomorrow, representatives from all settlements meet. We'll discuss. We'll decide how to respond. You can stay here tonight. You're our guests. We'll feed you, shelter you. Tomorrow, we have answers. Fair? Dr. Chen agrees. This is good. This is diplomacy working. Both sides being reasonable. The crew will stay the night in Valley Haven, experience life with the survivors, learn more, and tomorrow they'll meet with the council and discuss humanity's future. Both branches of humanity, together.
It's evening now on Earth, the first sunset the crew has seen in 50 years. Dr. Chen is describing it. The sun is setting behind the mountains. The sky is turning orange and pink and purple. Colors I'd forgotten existed. It's breathtaking. The survivors are gathering for evening meal, a communal thing. Everyone eats together. They're inviting us. We're joining them. There are children here, babies, pregnant women. Life goes on. Humanity continues. This is what we were hoping to find, not just survivors, but thriving communities. People living, not just surviving. I'm honored to be here, to witness this, to be part of bringing our two worlds back together. The crew is integrating with the survivors, sharing meals, sharing stories, building connections. This is how peace is made, not through grand declarations, but through small human moments. Shared food, shared laughter, shared humanity.
Let me share what we're learning about how they survived because it's remarkable, Elder Sarah explained to the crew during the meal. The first years after the war were hell, nuclear winter, starvation, radiation. The survivors were those in remote mountain areas, far from the cities that were targeted. They banded together, pooled resources. The Valley Haven founders were about 200 people who found each other. They had some supplies, some knowledge, some luck. The nuclear winter lasted 5 years. They survived by hunting what animals remained, foraging, eating stored foods from abandoned towns. Many died, but some made it through. When the sun returned and temperatures rose, they began farming again, growing crops, rebuilding. The radiation was high, but not immediately lethal. Life expectancy was reduced. Cancer was common, but life went on. Children were born. The community grew. They rebuilt deliberately, preserved knowledge, taught children to read and write, maintained some technology, basic machinery, water wheels, simple metallurgy. They're not primitives. They're rebuilding with purpose.
There's something else significant. The survivors kept records, books. They preserved knowledge from the old world. The settlement has a library. Not large, but it exists. Books on agriculture, medicine, engineering, history. Survivors brought books from the old world, protected them, copied them by hand when they wore out, passed knowledge to the next generation. That's why they still speak English clearly, why they remember the arcs, why they understand who the contact team is. They maintained connection to the past while building the future. That's sophisticated. That's wise. These aren't degraded remnants of civilization. These are people who deliberately preserved what they could while adapting to new reality. We have a lot to learn from them about resilience, about adaptation, about maintaining culture in the face of apocalypse.
The crew is staying in a guest house tonight. The survivors built accommodations for travelers from other settlements. They're being treated well, fed, warm, safe. Lieutenant Morrison reports that security isn't necessary. The survivors are friendly, curious, not threatening. The crew is relaxing, experiencing Earth, experiencing human connection with people they didn't know existed yesterday. Dr. Park walked through the settlement's agricultural fields. He's amazed at what they've achieved: crop rotation, irrigation, composting, sustainable agriculture without modern technology. They've rebuilt farming from first principles, using knowledge from the old world adapted to new circumstances. Dr. Rodriguez examined some of the survivors' medical practices, herb-based medicines, surgery with primitive tools. They've maintained surprising sophistication in medical care. These people have accomplished incredible things with limited resources.
Tomorrow morning, the council meets. Representatives from all 7 settlements in the valley. About 30,000 people total represented. They'll discuss the return of the Ark fleet, decide how to respond, whether to welcome us, whether to cooperate or resist, whether to see us as kin or as invaders. The crew will present their case, explain our needs and our offers, try to negotiate agreement that serves both populations. This is crucial. If the council rejects us, if they see us as threats, we have problems. We can't force landing, can't impose on people who were here first. Well, we could physically. We have overwhelming technological advantage, but morally we can't, ethically we can't. So we need the survivors' acceptance, need their cooperation. Tomorrow we find out if we get it. Tomorrow determines whether humanity reunites peacefully or divides potentially into conflict.
Let me share something from the crew's report tonight. Dr. Tanaka, the linguist, has been studying how the survivors speak. Their language has evolved. English is still the base, but they've developed new words, new grammatical structures. 50 years of separation has created linguistic drift. Not enough to prevent communication, but enough to be noticeable. She's documenting it. This is important because it shows that the two populations, Ark and Earth, have diverged culturally. We're not the same people anymore. We share a common root, but we've grown in different directions. The Ark population maintained technological advancement, but became culturally homogeneous. Everyone living in similar conditions, similar challenges, similar culture developing. The Earth survivors maintain diversity, different settlements, different experiences, different adaptations. They've evolved multiple subcultures. We're going to learn a lot from each other, but we're also going to have to bridge significant cultural gaps.
It's morning now on Earth. The crew slept in the guest house. Dr. Chen is reporting that sleep was difficult, not because of discomfort, but because of wonder. I could hear the wind, real wind, not ventilation systems. I could hear insects, night birds, the sounds of Earth. I lay awake listening, smelling the air, feeling the gravity. This is real. This is home. I'd forgotten what home felt like. Now I remember the crew is being fed breakfast, bread and eggs and milk from real animals, cheese, food that wasn't synthesized or grown hydroponically. The taste is different, richer, more complex. This is what they've been missing, what we've all been missing. Earth's bounty, Earth's richness. This is why we're returning, not just because the arks can't sustain us forever, but because this is what humanity needs. Connection to the land, to nature, to real living ecosystems.
The council is gathering now. The crew is being escorted to the meeting place, not the settlement's meeting hall, but a larger structure, a council building that serves all 7 settlements. Representatives are arriving, about 40 people, elders from each community. This is their government. Decentralized but coordinated. Each settlement maintains autonomy, but they cooperate on major decisions. This decision, how to respond to 3.5 million people returning from space, is definitely major. The crew is being introduced, each member explaining their role, Dr. Chen explaining the mission. The crowd is listening carefully. Some faces are welcoming, some skeptical, some fearful. This is normal, this is human. Not everyone will agree, not everyone will trust. But enough need to agree to make this work.
Dr. Chen is presenting now, explaining the Ark fleet, our 50 years in space, our desire to return, our offer of cooperation. We have technology, advanced medicine that can cure diseases, solar power that can provide electricity, tools and equipment, knowledge of engineering and science. We can share all of this. We can help your settlements grow and thrive. In return, we ask for land, not your lands, empty lands. There's plenty of Earth. We'll settle in areas that aren't claimed. We'll build our own cities, and we'll trade with you, share with you, work together to rebuild Earth. Both of our populations survived. Both have strengths. Together we can restore human civilization to heights we've never seen. What do you say? Will you work with us? It's a good pitch. Honest. Offering partnership, not domination. Now the council will respond.
The council is discussing among themselves. The crew is waiting. This is tense. Everything depends on this response. An elder from Highland Settlement speaks. You say you want to help. You say you want partnership, but you're 3.5 million. We're thousands, maybe millions across Earth, but scattered, divided. You're unified. You have skyships and technology we can't match. How do we trust you won't just take what you want? How do we trust you won't become our masters? This is the fear. This is what needs to be addressed. Dr. Chen responds, I understand your fear. I would feel the same in your position, but consider, we're asking permission. We're negotiating. If we wanted to conquer, we wouldn't ask. We'd just land. The fact that we're here, talking, sharing food, showing respect, that should tell you our intentions. We're not conquerors. We're family. Distant family, yes, but family. Let us prove ourselves through actions. Give us a chance to show our good faith.
Another elder speaks, this one from Riverbend Settlement. I remember the before times. I was a child when the war came. I remember the ships leaving, the arks. My parents weren't chosen. We weren't important enough. We were left behind to die, but we didn't die. We survived. We suffered while you lived in comfort in space. And now you come back asking for land, for cooperation? Where was cooperation when we needed it? When we were dying of radiation and starvation? You abandoned us. This is the resentment, the bitterness. This is what we feared. The survivors see us as cowards who ran. Dr. Chen responds carefully. You're right. We left. Those who boarded the arks were chosen by lottery and skill. It wasn't fair. It couldn't be fair. We couldn't save everyone. That decision haunts us. Everyone who left carries guilt. We know billions died. We know you suffered. We can't change that, can't undo it. But we're here now. We want to help now. Is that worth something? Can we build forward even if we can't fix the past?
The discussion continues for hours, the council debating, the crew answering questions, explaining more about the arks, about life in space, about technology they can offer. Some council members are warming to the idea, seeing benefits. Others remain skeptical, remain angry. This is difficult. This is messy, but it's democracy. It's consensus building. Finally, Elder Sarah speaks. We will not decide this today. This is too important. We need time. We need to consult our people. Each settlement must decide its own response, but I propose this. We establish a trial period. You may land small numbers, not millions, hundreds, a test. Build a small settlement nearby. Prove you can live peacefully. Prove you can be trusted. If that works, we discuss larger numbers. Does that seem fair? Dr. Chen confers with her team, then responds, yes, that's fair. That's wise. We accept. We'll land an initial group, maybe 500 people. We'll establish a small settlement. We'll prove ourselves through actions. Thank you for giving us this chance.
This is huge. This is agreement in principle, not full acceptance, but a path forward. A trial period. That's reasonable. That's smart. It protects the survivors while giving us a chance to prove ourselves. Dr. Chen is transmitting this to the fleet. Admiral Chen is responding. Excellent work, Dr. Chen. The trial settlement approach is acceptable. We'll select 500 volunteers, prepare them for descent, establish base camp near Valley Haven. Begin proving we can coexist peacefully. This is the beginning. This is the foundation. Well done, team. The crew is relieved, elated. They've achieved the mission objective. Contact successful. Agreement reached. Framework for return established. This is victory, not total victory, but real progress. Now comes the hard work of implementation, of proving we can be trusted, of building relationships between two branches of humanity that diverged 50 years ago.
The crew is being celebrated by the survivors. A feast is being prepared. The survivors want to honor the moment. First Contact Day, they're calling it. The day the Sky People returned, the day humanity reunited. There's music, instruments the crew doesn't recognize, made from local materials, songs in English but with unfamiliar melodies, dancing, laughter, children playing with the crew members, showing them toys, showing them the settlement. This is beautiful. This is hope. This is what peace looks like. Not treaties and agreements, though those matter, but human connection, shared joy, shared hope for the future. The crew will stay another day, then return to the arks with their report, with their recommendations. And then the real work begins. Selecting the 500 settlers, preparing them, landing them, beginning the trial period, beginning the process of determining if humanity can truly reunite.
Let me share a personal reflection because this matters. I've been broadcasting for 50 years. I've reported on life aboard the arks, on the births and deaths, on the politics and conflicts, on the tedious daily existence of humans living in artificial environments. And through it all, I've wondered if we'd ever return to Earth, if this moment would ever come, and now it's here. We're going home, not all at once, not without complications, but we're going home. And we're not alone. We have family waiting for us, family that survived against impossible odds, family that rebuilt from ashes. I'm honored to witness this, to report on this, to share this moment with all of you listening across the fleet. This is humanity at its best. Resilient, adaptive, compassionate. We faced apocalypse and survived. Both branches of us. Now we rebuild together. That's worth celebrating.
The crew is preparing to return to the shuttle tomorrow. They'll ascend back to the arks, report in person to the leadership, share everything they've learned, begin planning the trial settlement. They're emotional about leaving. They've only been here 2 days, but they've formed connections, bonds with the survivors, especially with Elder Sarah, who's become a friend. She's given Dr. Chen a gift, a book, hand-copied, a history of Valley Haven, stories of survival, stories of rebuilding. She wants the Ark population to know their story, to understand what they endured, to respect what they achieved. Dr. Chen is grateful, honored. This book will be shared throughout the fleet, will become required reading, will help bridge the cultural gap between us and them, between space humanity and Earth humanity. This is how understanding is built, through stories, through sharing experiences, through recognizing each other's humanity.
It's time for the crew to depart. They're at the shuttle, saying goodbye to the survivors who've gathered. Hugs, tears, promises to return. Elder Sarah is speaking to Dr. Chen. Tell your people what you saw here. Tell them we're not savages, not primitives. We're humans who adapted, who survived, who deserve respect. Tell them we're willing to work with you. But we won't be dominated. We won't be erased. We survived when you left us for dead. We rebuilt when you assumed we were gone. We've earned our place on Earth. If you respect that, we'll welcome you. If not... She doesn't finish. Doesn't need to. The message is clear. Cooperation requires mutual respect. The survivors won't be second-class citizens on their own planet. Dr. Chen understands. Agrees. I'll tell them. I'll make sure they understand. You're heroes. You're the best of humanity. We'll respect that. I promise.
The shuttle is launching, rising from the field. The survivors are waving. The crew is waving back through the windows. The settlement is shrinking below them, becoming small, then disappearing as the shuttle rises through the atmosphere, heading back to orbit, back to the arcs. The crew is processing their experiences. Dr. Chen is recording her thoughts. We went to Earth expecting to find emptiness. We found life. We expected to reclaim an abandoned planet. We found it inhabited. We thought we'd be saviors. Instead, we learned we're supplicants. The survivors don't need us. They've been doing fine without us. But they're willing to accept us, to work with us. That's more than we deserve. That's grace. We need to honor that, need to prove we deserve that chance. This is the beginning of something beautiful or something terrible. Which it becomes depends on what we do next.
The shuttle has docked with Ark 1. The crew is emerging. They're being met by Admiral Chen and other leadership. Media, crowds of people eager to hear about Earth, about the survivors, about first contact. Dr. Chen addresses the crowd. Earth is beautiful, Earth is alive, and Earth is inhabited. We met humans who survived the war, who rebuilt from nothing, who are thriving. They're cautious about our return, understandably, but they're willing to give us a chance. We've negotiated a trial period. 500 of us will land. We'll establish a settlement. We'll prove we can coexist peacefully. This is the beginning. If we do this right, if we prove ourselves, humanity can reunite. We can rebuild Earth together, but it requires humility, requires respect, requires recognizing that the survivors earned their place on Earth through suffering we can't imagine. Are we capable of that? I believe we are. I hope we are. The future depends on it.
The Ark fleet is reacting to the news. Across all 7 ships, people are processing what they've learned. Some are elated, thrilled that humans survived, excited about the prospect of meeting survivors, learning from them. Others are disappointed. They expected an empty Earth they could claim. They don't want to negotiate, don't want to share, want Earth to themselves. This division is predictable, but it's going to cause problems. Leadership needs to manage expectations, needs to make clear that the survivors have rights, have claims to Earth that equal or exceed ours, that we're returning as partners, not conquerors. That message needs to be reinforced constantly, because some people won't accept it, will cause problems, will threaten the peace we're trying to build.
The 500 settlers for the trial period are being selected now. Volunteers are being screened. They need people with the right skills: agriculture, construction, medicine, diplomacy, but also the right temperament: humble, adaptable, respectful, people who can represent humanity well, who can build bridges rather than walls. The selection committee is working around the clock. They'll have the list within a week. Then training begins, preparing people for Earth's gravity, Earth's environment, Earth's cultures. They'll learn about the survivors, about Valley Haven and the other settlements, about how to interact respectfully. This is critical. These 500 people will determine whether the trial succeeds, whether humanity reunites or fragments. That's enormous pressure, but also enormous opportunity to be among the first to return to Earth permanently, to help build the new world. That's worth the pressure.
Let me read from the selection criteria because they're instructive. Candidates must demonstrate flexibility and adaptability to unexpected situations, respect for diverse cultures and viewpoints, skills relevant to settlement building, agriculture, construction, medicine, education, engineering, humility and willingness to learn from Earth survivors, physical fitness to handle Earth's gravity and environment, emotional stability and psychological resilience, commitment to peaceful coexistence and conflict resolution, willingness to live simply without advanced Ark amenities temporarily. These criteria will select good representatives, people who can succeed in the trial settlement, people who can prove that Ark humans and Earth humans can live together peacefully. The application process has already attracted thousands of volunteers. People are eager, ready to return to Earth, ready to be part of this historic moment.
We're getting word that other survivor populations have been detected, not just in North America, but globally. The reconnaissance probes have been scanning more broadly. Settlements detected in South America, Europe, Asia, Africa, Australia, survivors everywhere, tens of millions globally, maybe more. This is extraordinary. Humanity survived in far greater numbers than we thought. That's wonderful. But it also means the politics are more complex. We're not negotiating with one group. We're negotiating with dozens or hundreds of survivor communities, each with its own culture, its own leadership, its own perspective on our return. Some might welcome us. Others might be hostile. We'll need to approach each community individually, establish relationships separately, build trust community by community. That's going to take time, years, maybe decades, but it's necessary if we want to reunite peacefully with all of Earth's population.
The survivors in Valley Haven have sent a message to the fleet. Elder Sarah recorded it and the crew brought it back. Let me play it. People of the sky ships, this is Elder Sarah of Valley Haven. We met your representatives. We heard your story. We understand your desire to return. We share your hope that our peoples can unite. But understand this, Earth is our home. We paid for it in blood and suffering. We won't give it up, but we'll share it. If you respect us, if you treat us as equals, if you honor what we've built, come in peace and you'll be welcomed. Come as conquerors and you'll be resisted. The choice is yours. We await your decision. May wisdom guide you. That message is clear. The survivors will cooperate, but only on equal terms. They won't be subjugated or dominated. We need to accept that, need to internalize it, need to build our return around that principle.
Admiral Chen has issued a fleet-wide directive. I'll read the key parts. To all members of the Ark fleet, our reconnaissance team has made successful contact with Earth survivors. This is miraculous, this is joyful, but it changes our plans significantly. Earth is inhabited. We are not reclaiming an abandoned planet. We are joining an existing human population. This requires humility, requires respect, requires negotiation rather than assumption. We will proceed carefully with a trial settlement of 500 volunteers. If successful, we'll expand gradually, but always in consultation with Earth survivors, always with their consent. We are guests on Earth until we prove we can be trusted neighbors. Act accordingly. Treat survivors with respect. Remember that they endured what we escaped. Honor their resilience. Build bridges, not walls. The future of humanity depends on how we handle the next months and years. Let's prove worthy of that responsibility.
The trial settlement is being planned now. Location has been selected with input from Valley Haven, 20 miles from their settlement, empty land, forested area near a river, good water source, good agricultural land. The 500 settlers will land in waves. First wave, 50 people, engineers and construction workers. They'll prepare the site, build basic infrastructure, shelters, wells, sanitation. Then wave 2, 150 people, agriculturalists and medical staff. They'll establish farms and medical facilities. Then wave 3, 300 people, general population, families, children, teachers. They'll make it a complete community, not just a work camp, but a real settlement, a home. This will take months, but it's deliberate. Each wave building on the previous one, creating a sustainable community that can prove we're capable of coexisting with Earth survivors.
I want to talk about what happens if the trial fails. If there's conflict between the settlers and the survivors, if trust breaks down, what then? Do we abandon the settlement? Do we force the issue? Command has been clear. We don't force. If the survivors revoke permission, we withdraw. We return to orbit. We try again elsewhere with different survivors. Or we wait. We can't impose ourselves on people who don't want us. That would be colonialism. That would be conquest. We escaped that when we left Earth. We won't bring it back. So the trial settlement needs to succeed, needs to demonstrate that cooperation works, that both populations benefit. That's the only path forward. Failure means years more delay, maybe decades. Failure means generations more living on the arks while we figure out how to return peacefully. That's unacceptable. So we need to make this work.
The first wave of settlers has been selected, 50 people, engineers, construction workers, a few security personnel. They're preparing now, training in high-gravity sections, studying Earth ecology, learning about the survivors. They'll launch in 2 weeks. They'll land at the trial settlement site. They'll begin building. The survivors from Valley Haven have agreed to help, to share knowledge about local materials, about construction techniques that work in Earth conditions, about agriculture suited to the region. This is cooperation already beginning. This is both populations working together, building trust through shared effort. That's promising. That's the foundation we need. The first wave leader is David Chen, no relation to Dr. Sarah Chen. He's an experienced engineer, a good leader, a humble man. He'll represent us well.
Let me share David Chen's statement. I'm honored to be selected to lead the first wave. I'm nervous, excited, humbled. We're not just building a settlement. We're building a future, proving that humanity can reunite. That's enormous responsibility. But I'm confident in this team. We're skilled, we're prepared, and we're committed to succeeding. To the survivors watching, we come as neighbors, as fellow humans. We'll work hard. We'll respect your land and your culture. We'll prove we deserve your trust. And to the Ark fleet, we'll make you proud. We'll represent humanity well. Watch us, pray for us, hope with us. We're going home. That's the right attitude. That's the humility and determination we need. I'm confident this will work. I'm hopeful. For the first time in 50 years, I'm genuinely hopeful about humanity's future.
We're receiving updates from Earth. The survivors have been sharing information with each other. Word is spreading about the Ark fleet's return, about first contact, about the trial settlement. Reactions are mixed across different survivor communities. Some are excited, want to meet us, want access to our technology. Others are suspicious, fearful, want nothing to do with us. Some are organizing resistance, planning to oppose our landing if we come to their territories. This is predictable. This is human diversity. We'll navigate it. We'll work with those willing to work with us. We'll avoid those who don't want contact. There's plenty of Earth. We don't need to force ourselves on unwilling communities. We can find places where we're welcome, where cooperation benefits both sides. That's the path forward.
The broader implications are starting to become clear. This isn't just about returning to Earth. This is about redefining humanity. For 50 years, we've been two populations. Space humanity and Earth humanity. We evolved differently, different experiences, different cultures, different technologies. Now we're reuniting. But we're not the same people who separated 50 years ago. We're different branches of humanity. That means we need new frameworks, new ways of organizing ourselves, new political structures that accommodate both populations, both perspectives. This is unprecedented. We're creating new forms of human organization, new societies that span Earth and space. That's exciting. That's daunting. That's the work of generations. But it starts now with this trial settlement, with these first steps toward reunion.
There's another development. Some Ark residents are deciding to stay in space. They don't want to return to Earth. They want to continue living on the Arks. Or better yet, continue into deep space, find new worlds, establish space-based civilization permanently. This is the pioneer movement we mentioned earlier. They're gaining support, maybe 500,000 people across the fleet. They're petitioning Admiral Chen to allow one Ark to separate, to continue into deep space while the other 6 return to Earth. This is a difficult decision. Splitting the fleet, dividing resources. But maybe it's right. Maybe humanity's future is both Earth and space. Maybe we need both branches, Earth-based and space-based, both paths forward. This is being debated at the highest levels. No decision yet, but it's under serious consideration. The first wave launches in 1 week. David Chen and his team of 50 preparing for departure. Training completed, equipment loaded, everything ready. They'll descend to the trial settlement site, begin construction immediately. The survivors from Valley Haven will meet them, provide guidance, work alongside them. This is the beginning of something new, of humanity rebuilding together. I'll be covering this extensively. Elena and I will broadcast from the settlement once it's established. We're going down with the third wave. We'll report from Earth, share what life is like, share how the cooperation is developing, share the challenges and successes. This is the story of our time, the story of humanity's return to Earth, the story of two populations reuniting after 50 years. We're honored to tell it. Let me close with this thought. 50 years ago, humanity faced extinction. Nuclear war nearly destroyed us. We escaped to space. We survived against odds. We maintained civilization through incredible effort, and Earth survivors endured hell, suffered through nuclear winter and radiation, rebuilt from ashes. Both populations, Ark and Earth, represent the best of humanity: resilience, adaptability, determination. Now we're reuniting, not as conquerors and conquered, not as saviors and saved, but as equals, as families separated by tragedy, coming back together, building a future that honors both paths, that combines the strengths of both populations. This is hope. This is possibility. This is humanity proving we can overcome anything, even apocalypse, even 50 years of separation. We survive. We adapt. We reunite. That's who we are. That's what we do. And I'm proud to witness it.
And this is Marcus Reed and Elena Shaw, Aftermath Radio, signing off. The journey home has begun. The trial settlement will establish the foundation. If successful, millions will follow. Earth will be rebuilt, humanity will reunite, the arcs will remain in orbit as monuments to our survival, reminders of what we endured, but our future is on Earth, walking on solid ground, breathing unfiltered air, living in natural ecosystems, working together, Ark humans and Earth humans, to build something better than what was lost, better than the old world that destroyed itself. We have a chance to start fresh, to build wisely, to create a civilization that values both technological advancement and ecological balance, that honors both space achievement and Earth connection. That's the future we're building, together. Stay with us, watch with us, hope with us. We're going home. Good evening, everyone. You're listening to Freedom Radio. I'm Marcus Reed, and with me tonight is Elena Shaw. It's 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and we need to address what's happening across the nation right now. For those just tuning in, the situation has escalated beyond anything we could have imagined 48 hours ago. What began as protests and political demonstrations has evolved into what some are calling the beginning of a second civil war. Elena, the president has fled Washington, D.C. The capital of the United States is under siege.
Marcus, I want to be very clear about the timeline because understanding how we got here is critical. 72 hours ago, the Supreme Court issued a ruling that invalidated the most recent presidential election. They declared the results void due to what they called systematic irregularities and ordered a new election to be held within 90 days. Within an hour of that ruling, protests erupted in every major city. Within 12 hours, those protests turned violent. Within 24 hours, state governors were choosing sides. Some supported the Supreme Court decision. Others called it a coup. The nation split.
By yesterday morning, 3 governors had declared their states would not recognize the Supreme Court's authority: California, Oregon, and Washington. They announced they would continue recognizing the current administration as legitimate. By yesterday afternoon, Texas, Florida, and 6 other states declared they would recognize the Supreme Court's ruling and consider the current administration illegitimate. By yesterday evening, we had 2 competing claims to governmental authority, 2 groups claiming to be the legitimate government of the United States. And this morning it turned kinetic.
Military units started choosing sides. The 1st Infantry Division at Fort Riley, Kansas, declared for the Supreme Court faction. Let's call them the Constitutionalists. The 82nd Airborne at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, declared for the current administration, the Continuity faction. Other units split internally, officers supporting one side, enlisted personnel supporting another. By noon, we had firefights on military bases, American soldiers shooting American soldiers. The unthinkable became real. The military has fractured.
And 6 hours ago at 2 p.m., armed militia groups seized control of downtown Washington, D.C. The group, calling themselves the Patriot Liberation Front, claims to represent the constitutionalist cause. They took the Capitol building, the Supreme Court, and several federal buildings. They're holding them now. The president, the vice president, most of Congress, they evacuated before the takeover. The White House is empty. The capital of the United States is occupied by insurgents. The government has fled to an undisclosed location. America, as we knew it, no longer exists in any meaningful form.
It's 8:15 p.m. Let's talk about what this actually means on the ground, because the constitutional and political theory is less important than the practical reality people are facing. In constitutionalist-controlled areas, primarily the South and parts of the Midwest, new authorities have taken over. State governments that declared for the constitutionalist cause are establishing their own governance structures. They're no longer following federal law. They're creating their own laws, their own enforcement, their own everything. In continuity-controlled areas, primarily the West Coast and Northeast, federal authority continues, but it's contested and weakening.
And then there are the contested territories. States where the government supports one side but significant populations support the other. States where different regions have declared for different factions. Pennsylvania is split. Philadelphia and Pittsburgh support continuity. The center of the state supports constitutionalists. Virginia is split. Northern Virginia supports continuity. The rest supports constitutionalists. In these states, we're seeing armed confrontations between factions, roadblocks, checkpoints, armed groups controlling territory. It's not guerrilla warfare yet, but it's heading that direction.
The economic implications are immediate and catastrophic. The stock market has been closed for 36 hours. They shut it down when the crisis started. When it reopens, if it reopens, analysts predict losses of 50 to 70%, but that's almost irrelevant. The real economy is collapsing. Interstate commerce has stopped. Trucking companies won't cross state lines because they don't know what authority controls the roads, what laws apply, whether they'll be seized by one faction or another. Ports are shut down. Airports are closed. The flow of goods that keeps America functioning has stopped.
We're already seeing shortages. Grocery stores in major cities are being emptied. not by panic buying this time, by actual supply chain failure. The food isn't being delivered because the trucks aren't running. Gas stations are running dry for the same reason. Hospitals are rationing medical supplies. This isn't temporary. This is the breakdown of the integrated national economy. We've taken for granted that food appears in stores, that gas is available, that goods flow freely. All of that depended on national unity, on common authority, on interstate commerce working. None of that exists anymore.
It's 8:30 p.m. Marcus, we need to discuss what's happening in the military because that's the most critical factor. As of this evening, approximately 40% of U.S. military forces have declared for the Constitutionalists. About 35% have declared for continuity. The remaining 25% are either undecided, split internally, or have collapsed as functioning units due to internal conflict. This is catastrophic. The world's most powerful military has fractured into competing factions that may soon be fighting each other in a full civil war.
The nuclear arsenal is the most frightening aspect. The United States has about 5,000 nuclear weapons spread across multiple locations, silos in the Midwest, submarine bases on both coasts, bomber bases in multiple states. Who controls these weapons now? The continuity faction claims they retain control of the nuclear command authority because the president, their president, still has the nuclear codes, but the constitutionalists claim that authority is illegitimate. If both sides claim control, if both sides have personnel with access to nuclear weapons, we're facing a scenario where nuclear weapons could be used on American soil.
The Pentagon itself is contested. Parts of the building are held by continuity loyal forces. Parts are held by constitutionalist loyal forces. There are literal armed standoffs in the hallways of the Pentagon. The Joint Chiefs are split, some supporting each side. There is no unified military command. Every base commander is making their own decision about which faction to support. Some bases have split, with different units controlling different parts of the installation. We've lost civilian control of the military. We've lost military chain of command. What we have is armed forces in chaos.
It's 8:45 p.m. Let's address the international dimension because the world is watching this with a mixture of horror and opportunism. America has been the global hegemon for 80 years. American military power, American economic power, American cultural influence, these have shaped the world order. Now, America is collapsing into civil conflict. What does that mean for global stability? China is already moving on Taiwan. Russia is mobilizing forces along the Ukrainian border. Regional powers that were constrained by American presence are suddenly unconstrained.
NATO is in crisis. The alliance was built around American leadership. Without America functioning as a unified state, NATO has no leader. European members are debating whether to recognize continuity or constitutionalists or neither. Some are hedging, maintaining relations with both factions. Others are choosing sides. Germany has indicated support for continuity. Poland is leaning constitutionalist. NATO might fracture along with America. The entire Western alliance structure built after World War II could collapse in the wake of American collapse.
U.S. military forces overseas are in impossible positions. We have troops in over 70 countries. Those troops are suddenly without clear orders. Some base commanders are declaring for one faction or another. Others are staying neutral, trying to avoid being drawn into American civil conflict while stationed abroad. In some locations, like Germany and Japan, host nations are demanding American forces leave because they don't want to deal with the complexity of competing U.S. factions operating on their soil. American global military presence is evaporating.
The dollar is collapsing. The U.S. dollar has been the global reserve currency for decades. International trade, oil markets, national reserves, all denominated in dollars because of confidence in American stability. That confidence is gone. We're watching the dollar lose 30-40% of its value against other currencies in real time. Countries are dumping dollar reserves, switching to euros, yuan, gold. The petrodollar system is ending. This represents the end of American economic hegemony. The financial implications will affect every person on the planet.
It's 9 p.m. We've been on the air for 1 hour. Elena, let me read a statement that was just released by the continuity government. That's what they're calling themselves now. Not just the administration, but the continuity government of the United States. This was issued from an undisclosed location. The continuity government remains the sole legitimate authority of the United States. The occupation of Washington, D.C. by extremist militia groups is an illegal insurrection. The Supreme Court ruling that precipitated this crisis was made under duress and is invalid. We call on all military forces, all law enforcement, all civil authorities to recognize our legitimate government. We call on citizens to remain calm and await restoration of order. Those participating in armed rebellion will face prosecution. The Union will be preserved.
And here's the counterstatement from the Constitutionalists, issued from their headquarters, which they've established in Atlanta. The Constitutional Council of the United States represents the lawful continuity of American government. The previous administration's refusal to accept the Supreme Court's ruling constitutes a coup against constitutional authority. We have liberated Washington, D.C. from an illegitimate regime. We call on all Americans to recognize constitutional legitimacy. State governments that support the Constitutional Council are acting lawfully. Those supporting the false continuity government are engaged in rebellion. We seek peaceful resolution, but will defend the Constitution by force if necessary.
So we have two governments, each claiming to be legitimate, each calling the other illegitimate, each claiming authority over the military, over federal agencies, over everything, and critically, each accusing the other of rebellion and threatening force. This is not political rhetoric. These are governments preparing for civil war. The language is escalating. The positions are hardening. The window for peaceful resolution is closing, may already be closed. We're sliding toward full-scale conflict.
It's 9:15 p.m. Let's talk about what's happening in specific regions because the situation varies dramatically across the country. The West Coast, California, Oregon, Washington, these states have formed what they're calling the Pacific Coalition. They've declared support for continuity, but are also asserting significant autonomy. They're saying they'll support continuity's claim to federal authority, but will also make independent decisions about their own governance. It's a hedged position. They're preparing for the possibility that continuity collapses and they need to be independent.
The Pacific Coalition is fortunate in some ways. They're geographically isolated from the main conflict zone, protected by mountains and deserts. They have significant economic power. California alone is the fifth largest economy in the world. They have ports, agriculture, technology. They could potentially function as an independent entity if they needed to. They're preparing for that possibility while publicly supporting continuity. It's pragmatic, but it also signals that national unity is gone. Even states supporting continuity don't trust that continuity will survive.
The South is solidly constitutionalist. Texas, Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Tennessee, Kentucky, Arkansas. These states have formed what they call the Constitutional Alliance. They're coordinating governance, coordinating military forces, coordinating economics. They're building a functional state structure separate from anything continuity controls. The Constitutional Alliance has significant resources, oil and gas production, agricultural capacity, military installations, population. They're positioning themselves as a rival power center to continuity.
The Midwest is fragmented. Some states like Kansas and Oklahoma are constitutionalist. Others like Illinois and Michigan are continuity. Still others like Ohio and Indiana are contested with different regions supporting different factions. The Midwest is likely to become a primary battleground because it's where the two factions meet geographically. The Mississippi River could become a front line. Interstate highways could become battle zones. The heartland of America could become a war zone in the coming weeks.
It's 9:30 p.m. Marcus, we need to address what ordinary people should be doing because we're getting thousands of messages from listeners asking for guidance. People are scared. They don't know what's happening, what it means for them, what they should do. Let's try to provide some practical advice. First, if you're in a contested area, a state or region, where both factions are claiming authority, you need to prioritize safety over politics. Don't get involved in factional fighting unless you're prepared for the consequences. Keep your head down.
Second, stockpile essentials. The supply chain is broken. Food, water, medicine, fuel, get what you can now because it's going to become scarce and expensive. We're heading toward shortages that could last months. Don't panic buy, but do prepare for extended disruption. Third, secure your home. Civil disorder is increasing. Police in many areas are either choosing sides or simply not responding because they don't know what authority to follow. You're responsible for your own security. Lock doors, reinforce entry points, have means of self-defense.
Fourth, maintain communications. Cell networks are still mostly functional but could be shut down by one faction or another. Have backup communication methods, ham radio, CB radio, even just agreements with neighbors about how to signal each other. Fifth, form community networks. Isolated individuals won't survive a prolonged crisis. Communities will talk to neighbors, organize mutual support, share resources and security responsibilities. The social fabric is tearing. You need to maintain it at the local level, even if it's failing nationally.
And sixth, be very careful about taking sides. Right now, the factions are competing for support. They want military forces, law enforcement, civilians to declare loyalty, but declaring for one side makes you an enemy of the other. If the balance of power shifts, if your side loses in your area, you could face retaliation. Unless you're deeply committed to one faction and willing to fight for them, staying neutral is safer. This is pragmatic survival advice, not political commentary. We're not telling you what to believe. We're telling you how to survive.
It's 9:45 p.m. Let me share some messages we've received from listeners across the country because they illustrate what people are experiencing. This one is from someone in Atlanta. I live near the Constitutionalist headquarters. There are soldiers everywhere, checkpoints on every major street. They're stopping cars, checking IDs, asking people what side they support. I saw them detain someone who said they supported continuity. I don't know what happened to that person. I'm keeping my mouth shut and my opinions to myself. This is America. This isn't supposed to happen here.
Another from the Seattle area. The Pacific Coalition announced food rationing today. Grocery stores are limiting purchases, 2 cans of each item, limits on meat and dairy, no bulk buying. They're saying it's temporary until supply chains are reestablished, but everyone knows the supply chains aren't coming back anytime soon. People are getting desperate. I saw a fight break out at Safeway over the last package of chicken. This is Seattle. We're supposed to be civilized. It's breaking down so fast.
From Pennsylvania. I'm in the central part of the state. We're in the middle of contested territory. Yesterday, a constitutionalist militia group came through town, setting up checkpoints, taking over the police station. Today, a Continuity National Guard unit showed up, and there was a standoff. Shooting started, 3 people dead, including 1 civilian who was just in the wrong place. The Guard drove the militia out, but said they couldn't stay to protect us. We're on our own. Neither side can protect us, but both sides are willing to fight here.
From a military base, the person didn't say which one. I'm an officer on a base that's split between constitutionalist and continuity factions. We've divided the base into sectors. There's an unofficial demilitarized zone between sectors. We're not shooting at each other yet, but everyone is armed, everyone is tense. I served with these people for years. They're my brothers and sisters in arms. Now we're pointing guns at each other over politics. Some of my friends are on the other side. I might have to kill them, or they might kill me. This is insane.
It's 10 p.m. We've been broadcasting for 2 hours. Marcus, let's discuss the humanitarian crisis that's emerging. We're already seeing massive displacement of populations, people fleeing contested areas, trying to get to regions firmly controlled by whichever faction they support, people fleeing violence, people fleeing shortages. Estimates suggest 10 to 15 million people are on the move right now. This is a refugee crisis happening inside America. Where do these people go? Who takes care of them?
The states receiving refugees are overwhelmed. California is seeing an influx of people from the Southwest. New York is receiving people from contested areas in Pennsylvania and the Mid-Atlantic. These states are trying to provide shelter, food, medical care, but they don't have the resources to handle this volume. They're setting up emergency camps, converted stadiums, convention centers, tent cities. Conditions are poor. Overcrowding, inadequate sanitation, limited food, disease outbreaks are inevitable. The humanitarian suffering is just beginning.
There's also the question of who gets to be a refugee. If you're fleeing a constitutionalist area and you show up in a continuity area, you're welcomed as a refugee. But if you're fleeing a continuity area trying to get to a constitutionalist area, the continuity faction might not let you leave. You're a citizen, a potential soldier, a resource. Both factions are starting to restrict movement. It's becoming difficult to cross factional lines. Internal borders are hardening. America is fragmenting into separate countries with closed borders.
It's 10:15 p.m. Let's talk about what happened in Washington, D.C. in more detail because it's the symbolic heart of this crisis. The Patriot Liberation Front, the militia group that seized control of the Capitol, numbers approximately 3,000 armed members. They're not military trained, though some have veteran backgrounds. They're a mix of militia members, political extremists, and people who genuinely believe they're saving the Constitution. They took the Capitol, the Supreme Court, and several federal buildings through a combination of surprise, overwhelming numbers, and the fact that security forces were already divided in their loyalties.
The Capitol building is now flying a modified American flag, 13 stars in a circle, representing what the PLF calls a return to original constitutional principles. The Supreme Court is flying the same flag. The PLF has declared Washington, D.C. to be the capital of the Constitutional Alliance. They're calling it Liberated Washington or Constitutional D.C. They've invited constitutionalist leadership to relocate there, but so far the Constitutional Alliance has kept its headquarters in Atlanta. I suspect they're worried about the tactical vulnerability of D.C. It could be retaken by continuity forces.
There are still civilians in D.C. estimated at about half the normal population of 700,000. Many fled when the crisis started, but many stayed either because they couldn't leave or because they chose to stay in their homes. These people are now living under PLF occupation. Reports indicate the PLF is trying to maintain order, providing some basic services, but they're not a government. They're an armed group with no governance expertise. Conditions are deteriorating, no trash collection, limited electricity, water systems are stressed. D.C. is becoming a humanitarian crisis zone.
The symbolic impact of losing D.C. is enormous. The capital of the United States is occupied by insurgents. The White House is empty. The Capitol is flying a rebel flag. To Americans and to the world, this signals that the United States government has lost control. It doesn't matter that the continuity government still exists somewhere. The fact that they don't control the Capitol undermines their legitimacy. The Constitutional Alliance is gaining legitimacy simply by holding D.C. symbols matter. Perception matters. The loss of Washington is a catastrophic blow to continuity.
It's 10:30 p.m. Elena, we need to discuss the very real possibility of foreign intervention. When a nuclear-armed nation collapses into civil war, other nations have to consider whether to intervene to protect their interests. China and Russia are the most obvious candidates. Both have the military capability. Both have strategic interests that could be served by intervention. The question is what form that intervention would take. Would they support one faction, support both, invade to secure nuclear weapons? The possibilities are frightening.
China has significant economic interest in America. They hold over $1 trillion in U.S. debt. They have massive trade relationships with American companies. A collapsed America hurts China economically. But it also creates opportunities. If China could align with one faction, likely the Pacific Coalition, given geographic proximity, they could secure their interests and gain influence over a large portion of American territory and economy. They could position themselves as the guarantor of stability on the West Coast in exchange for basing rights, trade agreements, political influence.
Russia's interests are more straightforward. They want American power diminished. A divided, weakened America can't oppose Russian ambitions in Europe and Central Asia. Russia is likely to support whichever faction appears weaker, prolonging the conflict. They might provide covert support to both sides just to keep the war going. The longer America fights itself, the more freedom Russia has to act globally. They don't need America destroyed completely, just distracted and weakened. Civil war accomplishes that perfectly.
European nations face a different calculation. They've been allied with America for generations. They depend on American military protection, American markets, American leadership. America's collapse leaves them exposed and economically damaged. Some European leaders are calling for international intervention, a UN peacekeeping force to stabilize America. Others are arguing Europe should stay out and focus on defending European interests. NATO is paralyzed by disagreement. The alliance that kept peace in the West for 75 years is crumbling.
It's 10:45 p.m. Let me read a statement from the UN Secretary General that was issued an hour ago. The United Nations is deeply concerned by the rapidly deteriorating situation in the United States. We call on all parties to cease hostilities, engage in dialogue, and seek peaceful resolution. The international community stands ready to assist in mediation efforts. We urge restraint, particularly regarding nuclear weapons. Any use of nuclear weapons on American soil or elsewhere would be catastrophic. We call on international partners to avoid intervention that could escalate the conflict. The American people must resolve this crisis themselves, but the world will help if asked.
That statement is carefully worded but reveals a lot. The UN is terrified of nuclear escalation. That's the primary concern. They're also implicitly warning other nations not to intervene militarily. And critically, they're acknowledging that this is America's crisis to resolve. The international community isn't going to fix this for us. We're on our own. The world will watch, will manage the fallout, will protect their own interests, but they're not going to save us. Americans created this situation. Americans will live or die with the consequences.
It's 11 p.m. We're 3 hours into this broadcast. Elena, I want to address something we've been avoiding. The possibility that this can't be resolved peacefully, that we're in the opening stages of an actual civil war that could last years. The first Civil War lasted 4 years and killed over 600,000 people, about 2% of the population. A modern civil war with current weapons, current population, could kill tens of millions. The economic destruction could take generations to recover from. We could be facing the end of America as a unified nation.
The conditions for prolonged civil war are all present. Deep ideological division, check. Both sides claiming legitimate authority, check. Military forces divided between factions, check. Geographic separation allowing for consolidated territorial control, check. External powers willing to provide support to prolong conflict, check. Economic collapse creating desperation, check. Loss of faith in peaceful resolution, check. Marcus, every indicator suggests this is going to get much worse before it gets better, if it gets better at all.
The optimistic scenario is that one side wins quickly. Either constitutionalist or continuity establishes clear dominance, the other side collapses, and we have a new government. Not the one everyone wanted, but at least one government that can restore order. The pessimistic scenario is a protracted multi-year conflict with no clear winner. The country fragments into separate entities, Pacific Coalition, Constitutional Alliance, Midwest Republic, whatever emerges. We become multiple nations instead of one. American history ends. New histories begin.
There's an even more pessimistic scenario. Neither side can win, but neither side will surrender. The conflict becomes frozen. Permanent division with active borders, occasional fighting, no resolution, like Korea after the Korean War, except it's America. We end up with 2 or 3 or more American successor states, all claiming to be the legitimate America, all hostile to each other, all armed with nuclear weapons. That's a nightmare scenario. Permanent Cold War between American successor states. It's almost unthinkable, but it's possible.
It's 11:15 p.m. Let's discuss what's happening with federal agencies because the breakdown is comprehensive. The FBI has split. Agents are choosing sides. Some FBI offices have declared for constitutionalist, others for continuity. The agency has ceased functioning as a unified entity. The CIA is similarly divided. NSA is fractured. Every intelligence agency is choosing sides or dissolving into chaos. This means there's no federal law enforcement. There's no unified intelligence capability. Each faction is trying to reconstitute these capabilities, but right now there's just fragmentation.
The Federal Reserve is in crisis. The dollar is collapsing, but the Fed can't effectively respond because there's no unified government to coordinate with. Different regional Federal Reserve banks are making their own decisions. Some are following continuity directives. Others are acting independently. The financial system is breaking down along factional lines. We might see different regional currencies emerging. The Constitutional Alliance has discussed issuing their own currency. The Pacific Coalition is considering the same. The dollar as a unified national currency may not survive.
The Postal Service has stopped functioning across factional lines. Mail delivery within continuity territory continues. Mail within constitutional territory continues. But mail between territories has stopped. You can't send a letter from California to Texas. They're different countries now for practical purposes. The same with package delivery services. FedEx and UPS have suspended service across factional lines because they can't guarantee safety of drivers or packages. The infrastructure of national connectivity is severed.
Social Security checks have stopped. Medicare payments have stopped. Federal employees aren't being paid. Everyone who depends on federal benefits or federal employment is suddenly without income. Both factions are trying to establish their own benefit systems, but it's chaos. People who paid into Social Security for decades are being told they'll have to reapply under whatever new system emerges. Retirees who depend on Social Security are suddenly destitute. The social safety net has collapsed. Millions of vulnerable people are in crisis.
It's 11:30 p.m. Let me share what we're hearing about military movements because kinetic conflict is approaching. The Constitutional Alliance is massing forces along the Tennessee-Kentucky border. Kentucky is constitutionalist, but southern Illinois just across the border is continuity territory. There are troop concentrations on both sides. It looks like both sides are preparing for a conventional military engagement. If that happens, if we see massed formations of American military units fighting each other, it's full civil war. We're not there yet, but we're very close.
The Navy is fragmenting by geography. Pacific Fleet is declaring for continuity. They're based in California and Washington continuity territory. Atlantic Fleet is more divided. Some ships declaring constitutionalist, some continuity, some staying neutral and withdrawing to international waters. Submarines are the biggest concern. Attack submarines and ballistic missile submarines have declared for various factions or have gone silent. Nuclear-armed submarines answering to no clear authority is a terrifying situation. One submarine commander making an irrational decision could trigger nuclear exchange.
Air Force bases are similarly divided. Some are constitutionalists, some continuity. But here's the thing about air power. It projects across territory regardless of ground control. A bomber based in Texas can strike targets in California. A fighter squadron based in Washington can strike targets in the South. We haven't seen airstrikes yet, but the capability exists on both sides. When the shooting starts, it could escalate very quickly to aerial bombardment, American planes bombing American cities. We're preparing for scenarios that were unthinkable a week ago.
It's 11:45 p.m. Marcus, we need to address what's happening at the local level, because while we're talking about states and factions and military forces, most Americans are experiencing this at the community level. Local governments are trying to maintain services. Police departments are trying to maintain order. Fire departments are responding to emergencies. Schools in some areas are still open. People are going to work if they can. There's a desperate attempt to maintain normalcy even as the national structure collapses.
But that normalcy is fragile. Local governments depend on state governments for funding and direction. State governments depend on federal funding, which no longer exists in any meaningful form. Local police depend on state law, which is now contested. Local economies depend on interstate commerce, which has stopped. Everything is connected. You can't maintain local normalcy when state and federal structures have collapsed. The breakdown will work its way down from national to state to local. It's inevitable. The only question is how long local structures can hold.
We're seeing neighborhood-level organization emerge. People are forming block associations, neighborhood watch groups, community defense organizations. These are filling the gap left by failing governmental structures. In some ways, it's beautiful. Communities coming together, helping each other, organizing for mutual support. In other ways, it's frightening. Armed civilian groups with no oversight, making their own rules, enforcing their own justice. Vigilante groups, militias. Some are protective and helpful. Others are dangerous and predatory.
It's midnight. We've been broadcasting for 4 hours. Elena, the sun set on a divided nation tonight. Tomorrow's sun will rise on a nation at war with itself. I don't think there's any avoiding it now. The momentum toward full civil war is overwhelming. Both factions are mobilizing military forces. Both are preparing for conflict. Neither is willing to compromise. The window for peaceful resolution has closed. What happens next is violence on a scale Americans haven't experienced since the 1860s. We're living through history, terrible history.
I want to address our listeners directly. Many of you are alone tonight, scared, wondering what tomorrow brings. You're not alone. Millions are listening. Millions are feeling the same fear. Millions are asking the same questions. We don't have easy answers. We can't tell you everything will be okay because we don't know if it will be. What we can tell you is this: humans are resilient, communities survive, people adapt. Whatever happens, some will make it through. Focus on survival, on family, on community. Those are what matter now. The nation may fall, but people endure.
It's 12:15 a.m. We're now into a new day, day 4 of the crisis, if we're counting from the Supreme Court ruling, but it feels like years have passed. The America we knew 72 hours ago is gone. We're living in something new and undefined, a failed state, a fragmenting nation, a country at war with itself. Whatever name we give it, it's not the United States of America as it existed. That's over. What comes next, whether it's multiple nations, a reunified America under one faction, or something else entirely, that's still being determined. We're in the liminal space, the in-between, the terrifying unknown.
Let me read a message we just received that captures this moment. It's from a college student in Ohio. She writes, "I'm 20 years old. I've lived my entire life in stable, prosperous America. I took for granted that tomorrow would be like today, that the government would function, that the economy would work, that I could plan a future. All of that is gone. I don't know if I'll finish college. I don't know if my degree would matter in whatever world comes next. I don't know if I'll get married, have kids, have a career, all the things I assumed I'd do. My future evaporated. I'm grieving for a life I'll never have, and I'm terrified of what life I will have. I don't know how to process this."
That student is experiencing what millions are experiencing, the collapse of assumed futures. The life you thought you'd have, it's not happening. The country you thought you'd live in, it's gone. The stability you took for granted, it was an illusion. This is traumatic. This is grief. Allow yourself to feel it. But then after you've felt it, you have to adapt. You have to build a new plan for the new reality. You're 20 years old. You have decades of life ahead if you survive. Those decades will be different than you planned, but they'll be your decades. Find a way to make them meaningful.
It's 12:30 a.m. Marcus, let's talk about what happens to American military forces overseas. We have about 170,000 troops stationed in various countries around the world. Those troops are now without clear orders. Some commanders are declaring for one faction or another. Others are staying neutral. But they're all in impossible positions. They're representing a country that no longer exists in unified form. Host nations are demanding they leave. Without resupply from America, they can't sustain operations. We're going to see a withdrawal of American forces from around the world. The global American military presence is ending.
This creates power vacuums everywhere. South Korea has depended on American forces to counter North Korea. What happens when those forces leave? Japan has depended on American protection against China. What happens when that protection disappears? NATO member states have depended on American commitment to collective defense. What happens when America can't honor that commitment because America is fighting itself? The entire global security architecture built around American power is collapsing. Regional powers will fill the vacuums. The world order is changing fundamentally.
American embassies around the world are in crisis. Who do they represent? Continuity, constitutionalists, neither. Some ambassadors are declaring for one faction. Others are trying to stay neutral. Others are resigning. Host nations are debating whether to recognize these embassies at all. In some cases, embassies have been closed and diplomats expelled. American diplomatic presence, like American military presence, is evaporating. The global network of American power and influence built over a century is being dismantled in days. And
it's 12:45 a.m. Let's discuss the information environment because it's shaping how people understand and respond to this crisis. Social media is filled with propaganda from both factions. Continuity supporters are sharing messages about constitutional crisis and illegal coups. Constitutionalist supporters are sharing messages about election fraud and restoration of legitimate government. Both sides are claiming the other is tyrannical, dangerous, illegitimate. The information space is completely polarized. There's no shared understanding of reality anymore.
Mainstream media has fractured along factional lines. Cable news networks have chosen sides. Some support continuity, some support constitutionalists. Some are trying to stay neutral but are accused by both sides of bias. Print newspapers are similarly divided. There's no Walter Cronkite figure who everyone trusts to tell the truth. There's no shared source of information. Everyone is getting their news from sources that confirm their pre-existing beliefs. This makes compromise impossible because people can't even agree on basic facts.
We're trying to maintain neutrality at Freedom Radio. We're reporting what both sides say. We're trying to give people factual information so they can make their own decisions, but we're getting criticism from both factions. Continuity supporters say we're legitimizing an illegal rebellion by treating constitutionalists as a valid faction. Constitutionalist supporters say we're legitimizing an illegal regime by treating continuity as a valid faction. Both sides want us to pick a side, but if we do that, we lose credibility with half our audience. So we stay neutral and get criticized by everyone.
It's 1 a.m. We're 5 hours into this broadcast, and we're going to continue through the night. Many of you can't sleep. Many are monitoring the situation obsessively. We'll be here with you. Let me update you on the humanitarian situation because it's deteriorating rapidly. Hospitals are running out of supplies. Many medications are in short supply, particularly insulin, heart medications, cancer treatments. People with chronic conditions are in crisis. Dialysis centers are shutting down because they can't get supplies. People are dying from lack of medical care, not because of violence, but because of system breakdown.
Food banks are overwhelmed. With supply chains broken and people losing income, millions are suddenly food insecure. Food banks depend on donations and supplies from national organizations. Those supply lines have failed. Food banks are running out of food. Hunger is becoming widespread. Not starvation yet. We have enough food in the country to feed everyone for a while, but distribution is broken. Food is sitting in warehouses in some places while people in other places are hungry. The problem is logistics, transportation, organization, all of which have collapsed.
Utilities are holding for now but are stressed. Electrical grids are interconnected across state lines. Water systems depend on chemicals and equipment that come from out of state. Natural gas pipelines cross multiple states. These systems were designed for a unified nation with free commerce. They're not designed for a fragmented nation with closed borders. Engineers are scrambling to keep systems running, but they're predicting failures in the coming weeks. We could see rolling blackouts, water supply interruptions, loss of heating as we head into winter. Infrastructure collapse is coming.
It's 1:15 a.m. Elena, we need to discuss the possibility of foreign military intervention in more detail because there are reports that Russia is considering it. Specifically, there are reports of Russian forces mobilizing on their Pacific coast, potentially preparing to move into Alaska. Alaska is U.S. territory, but it's geographically isolated from the rest of America. It's resource-rich: oil, natural gas, minerals. If Russia seized Alaska during American Civil War, there's not much either American faction could do about it. We don't have forces available to retake it. This could be Russian opportunism at its most brazen.
The Pacific Coalition has issued a statement saying they will defend Alaska as part of their territory, but they don't have military forces positioned to actually do that. Alaska has a small population and limited military presence. If Russia moved, Alaska would fall quickly. Then what? Does the Pacific Coalition accept the loss? Do they try to negotiate? Do they ask China for help countering Russia, creating an even more complex international situation? Alaska might be the first piece of American territory lost to foreign powers. It wouldn't be the last.
China is reportedly in negotiations with the Pacific Coalition about some kind of mutual defense agreement. Details are unclear, but the concept would be that China provides military support to the Pacific Coalition in exchange for basing rights and economic concessions. This would effectively make the Pacific Coalition a Chinese client state, California, Oregon, Washington, under Chinese protection. It's a stunning reversal. These states have been part of America for over a century and a half. Now they might align with a foreign power for protection against other Americans. The fragmentation is complete.
It's 1:30 a.m. Let me share what we're hearing about conditions in Washington, D.C. under PLF occupation. The Patriot Liberation Front is trying to govern the city, but they're not equipped for it. They're rationing the food they have. They're trying to maintain security, but don't have training in law enforcement. Crime is increasing, looting, violence, chaos. The PLF is responding with harsh measures, public punishments, executions in some cases. They're ruling through intimidation. Civilians are terrified. Many are trying to leave, but the PLF isn't letting people leave easily. They need the population there to legitimize their control. D.C. is becoming a prison city.
There are also reports of resistance within D.C. groups loyal to continuity are conducting sabotage, cutting power, disrupting communications, attacking PLF patrols. The PLF is responding with crackdowns, door-to-door searches, mass arrests, brutal interrogations. They're treating the civilian population as potentially hostile. This is creating a vicious cycle. Harsh treatment creates more resistance. More resistance justifies harsher treatment. Urban insurgency is developing in the nation's capital. Americans fighting Americans in the streets of Washington.
The symbolism of what's happening to national monuments is painful. The Washington Monument is covered in graffiti. The Lincoln Memorial has been vandalized. The White House is empty and deteriorating. Windows broken, grounds unkempt. These monuments represented national unity, shared history, common values. Seeing them desecrated or neglected is a visual representation of national collapse. When the symbols of unity are destroyed, what's left to unite around? We're losing not just our government, but our national identity, our shared story, our sense of being one people.
It's 1:45 a.m. Let's talk about what's happening with American corporations because they're facing impossible decisions. Companies that operate nationally can't function when the nation is divided. Do they recognize continuity or constitutionalists as legitimate authority? Do they pay taxes to both? Neither. Do they follow regulations from both? Companies are making different decisions. Some are choosing sides. Others are trying to stay neutral by continuing operations in all territories. Others are fragmenting with regional divisions becoming independent entities aligned with local factions.
Tech companies are in particularly difficult positions. They control communications infrastructure, social media platforms, search engines, cloud services. These are how people communicate and access information. Both factions want tech companies to censor the other side, to amplify their message, to provide them user data. Tech companies are being pressured from all sides. Some are complying with whoever has physical control of their headquarters. Others are trying to maintain neutrality. It's not working. They're being accused of bias no matter what they do. Some might shut down entirely rather than be used as weapons in the conflict.
The entertainment industry is in shock. Hollywood, television, streaming services, they were creating content for a unified national market. That market no longer exists. Do they create different content for different factions? Do they try to create neutral content that offends no one? Do they shut down production entirely? Many productions have halted. Studios are closed. The industry employed hundreds of thousands of people who are now without work. And more broadly, the idea of shared national culture, movies and TV shows that all Americans watch, that's over. We're developing separate cultures along factional lines.
It's 2 a.m. We're 6 hours into this broadcast. Marcus, I want to address something we haven't fully discussed. The psychological and emotional toll of national collapse. People are experiencing collective trauma. Everything they knew is gone. The future is uncertain. Many are losing hope. Depression, anxiety, PTSD. These are going to be epidemics. Suicide rates are already climbing. Mental health services are overwhelmed, and there's no clear path to recovery because the trauma is ongoing. It's not a single event you survive and process. It's a continuous, deteriorating situation with no end in sight.
The grief is complicated because it's not just personal loss, though many have lost jobs, homes, security. It's also collective loss. Loss of country, loss of identity as Americans, loss of shared future. This is disenfranchised grief. Grief that society doesn't recognize or validate because society itself is collapsing. There's no national mourning process for the death of the nation. Everyone is processing this alone or in small groups. We need rituals. We need communal grieving. We need acknowledgement that something profound has been lost, but we're not getting that. We're just expected to survive and adapt.
There's also anticipatory grief, grieving for what's coming, not just what's been lost. People know this is going to get worse. They're grieving future losses before they happen. Children who will grow up in war zones, careers that will never materialize, relationships that will be destroyed by conflict, the life that could have been, it's dying before it's lived. That's a special kind of pain, and it's rational. Things will get worse. The grief is appropriate. But living in constant grief while also trying to survive is exhausting. People are breaking down under the psychological weight.
It's 2:15 a.m. Let me read a message from a mother in Missouri. She writes, I have 3 kids, 10, 7, and 4. How do I explain to them what's happening? My 10-year-old asks why America is fighting itself. I don't have an answer that makes sense. My 7-year-old is having nightmares about soldiers. My 4-year-old doesn't understand why we can't go to the store like we used to. I'm trying to maintain normalcy, bedtime routines, family dinners, all of it. But I can hear gunfire some nights. Distant, but there. My kids hear it too. They ask what it is. I tell them it's fireworks. They don't believe me anymore. How do I parent through the apocalypse?
To that mother and all parents, there's no perfect answer. You do the best you can. You provide stability where possible. You answer questions honestly, but age appropriately. You reassure them that you'll protect them, even if you're not sure you can. You let them see you being strong, but it's also okay to let them see you being vulnerable. They know things are wrong. Hiding your emotions doesn't fool them. Let them know it's okay to be scared because you're scared too, but also show them people keep going even when scared. That's the lesson they need. Not that everything is fine, it's not, but that people endure it.
It's 2:30 a.m. Elena, we need to discuss what happens to the American nuclear arsenal because this is the most dangerous aspect of national collapse. The United States has about 5,000 nuclear weapons in various locations. Strategic bombers, land-based ICBMs, submarine-launched missiles, tactical weapons. These weapons are controlled through complex systems designed to ensure the president, and only the president, can authorize their use. But we now have competing claims to presidential authority. We have fractured chain of command. The nuclear command and control system is breaking down.
Both factions claim control of nuclear weapons. Continuity says the legitimate president still has authority. Constitutionalists say their authority supersedes the illegitimate regime. Meanwhile, the actual weapons are physically controlled by military personnel who've chosen sides or are trying to stay neutral. A missile base in North Dakota might be controlled by constitutionalist loyal troops. A submarine at sea might have a continuity-loyal captain. Neither faction has clear control of the entire arsenal. This is the most dangerous nuclear situation since the Cuban Missile Crisis, maybe more dangerous.
There are fail-safes built into the system. Nuclear weapons can't be launched by local commanders acting alone. They need authorization codes that come from the top. But those systems assume a unified chain of command. What happens when there are competing chains of command? What happens if a faction decides to seize a nuclear facility by force? What happens if someone decides to use nuclear weapons against the other faction? The probability of nuclear use, either intentional or accidental, is higher now than at any point in history. A nuclear weapon detonating on American soil is a real possibility.
International observers are watching the nuclear situation with absolute terror. The idea of an American Civil War is bad enough. The idea of an American Civil War fought with nuclear weapons is apocalyptic. Foreign governments are reaching out to both factions, pleading for restraint, offering to mediate, trying anything to prevent nuclear escalation. The UN Security Council held an emergency session specifically about American nuclear weapons. The message from the world to America is clear. Do not use nuclear weapons under any circumstances. But the world has no power to enforce that. They can only watch and pray.
It's 2:45 a.m. Let's talk about what's happening in rural America because the experience there is different from urban areas. Rural communities are more self-sufficient, less dependent on complex supply chains, more experienced with weapons and survival skills. Many rural areas are weathering the initial crisis better than cities. They have food from farms, wells for water, wood for heat. They're organized into communities that know and trust each other. In some ways, rural America is better positioned for collapse than urban America.
But rural areas face their own challenges. They're geographically isolated. If someone gets seriously sick or injured, hospitals might be hours away, and those hospitals might not be functioning. They have limited law enforcement, maybe one sheriff for an entire county. If armed groups come through, rural communities can't call for backup. They're on their own. And while they have some food production capacity, they don't have everything. No fuel refining, no pharmaceutical manufacturing, no complex equipment. They can survive in the short term, but will face shortages in the medium term.
Rural areas are also becoming battlegrounds in different ways. Control of agricultural production is strategic. Whichever faction controls the farmland controls the food supply. Both factions are trying to secure rural areas. This means military units moving through rural territory, establishing control, sometimes forcibly requisitioning food. Farmers who thought they'd be left alone are finding themselves in the middle of factional conflicts. Their crops are being seized. Their land is being fought over. Rural isolation doesn't mean rural safety. It just means different dangers.
It's 3 a.m. We're 7 hours into this broadcast. Marcus, I want to read a statement that was just released by a group calling itself the Reconciliation Movement. This is a group of former political leaders, military officers, religious figures, and others who are calling for both factions to negotiate. They say, we call on the continuity government and the Constitutional Alliance to agree to immediate ceasefire and begin negotiations. The path we're on leads to catastrophic civil war. Millions will die. The nation will be destroyed. There must be a political solution. We propose a process. Both factions agree to ceasefire. International mediators facilitate talks. A new constitutional convention addresses the underlying issues, and a new election is held under international observation. This is the path to preserving America. We beg both sides to take it.
That's a noble effort, but I'm skeptical it will work. Both factions believe they're legitimate, and the other is illegitimate. Both believe they're in the right. Both are committed to their positions. Compromise would require both sides to acknowledge partial legitimacy of the other. That seems unlikely. The continuity government would have to admit the election had problems. The constitutionalists would have to admit the Supreme Court ruling was flawed. Neither side will do that. They're too invested in their narratives. So while I appreciate the reconciliation movement's efforts, I think we're past the point of peaceful resolution.
But we have to hope, Marcus. We have to believe there's a path forward that doesn't involve years of civil war and millions dead. Maybe the reconciliation movement's proposal won't work as stated, but maybe it starts a dialogue. Maybe someone with influence on both sides can find middle ground. Maybe the reality of bloodshed will shock people into compromise. I'm not optimistic. I think you're right that we're too far gone. But I can't completely give up hope because the alternative is too dark. We have to keep trying for peace even when peace seems impossible.
It's 3:15 a.m. Elena, let me share what we're hearing about the first major military engagement between factions. It's happening right now in Kentucky, near the Tennessee border. A constitutionalist force of about 2,000 troops, combination of National Guard and organized militia, is engaging a continuity force of similar size. This is not a skirmish. This is a pitched battle with artillery, armor, air support. Early reports suggest heavy casualties on both sides. This is what civil war looks like. American soldiers killing American soldiers in massed combat.
The battle started around midnight 3 hours ago. The Constitutionalist force was advancing north from Tennessee into Kentucky, trying to secure territory. The continuity force moved to stop them. They met near a town called Franklin. The town is caught in the middle, civilians trapped while armies fight around them. Buildings are being destroyed, fires are burning, civilians are hiding in basements. This is a small American town becoming a war zone. This is what's coming for dozens, maybe hundreds of American communities, battle lines forming, armies clashing, cities and towns destroyed as collateral damage.
Casualty estimates are preliminary, but we're hearing numbers like 200 dead, 500 wounded on both sides combined. That's 200 American soldiers dead in a single battle. The worst combat casualties America has experienced since Vietnam. And this is just the first major engagement. There will be more, larger ones. The death toll will mount. We're watching American military power, which we usually think of as being directed outward at foreign enemies, being turned inward. American weapons killing Americans, American training and tactics used against Americans. It's a perverse waste of everything the military is supposed to be.
It's 3:30 a.m. Let's talk about the economic numbers because they're staggering. Economists are estimating that the U.S. economy has contracted by 30% in the past 72 hours. 30%. To put that in perspective,
The Great Depression saw a contraction of about 25% over 4 years. We've exceeded that in 3 days. Unemployment has jumped to around 25%, 40 million people without jobs. GDP is in free fall. This is economic collapse on a scale never seen in modern history. The Great Depression will look mild compared to what's coming.
The human cost of that economic collapse is profound. People can't feed their families, can't pay rent or mortgages, can't buy medicine, can't afford basic necessities, and there's no government safety net because the government is broken. There's no unemployment insurance being paid, no food stamps, no emergency aid. People are on their own. Churches and charities are trying to help, but they're overwhelmed. We're going to see homelessness on a massive scale. Hunger, disease, deaths of despair. The social fabric is shredding.
The wealthy are fleeing the country, private jets leaving for Europe, for South America, for anywhere stable. Those who can afford to evacuate are evacuating. They're taking their money with them. Billions of dollars flowing out of America to foreign banks. The capital flight is accelerating the economic collapse. The wealthy class that could potentially help fund recovery is abandoning the nation. They're saving themselves and their fortunes. American billionaires becoming European or South American or Asian billionaires, taking their wealth but abandoning their country.
It's 3:45 a.m. Let me read a message from someone in New York City. They write, "Manhattan is emptying. I live in Midtown and I can see it happening. Buildings that were full a week ago are now empty. Stores are closed. Restaurants are closed. Streets that used to be packed with people are nearly empty. The city is dying. People are leaving if they can afford to. Those who can't afford to leave are hunkering down. The energy of the city, that buzz that made New York feel alive, it's gone. This is a ghost city now. I never thought I'd see New York dead, but that's what's happening. The city is dying."
New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, the great American cities are experiencing the same thing. Population flight, economic collapse, service breakdown. These cities were built on the assumption of national connectivity, of being nodes in a national network. When the network breaks, the nodes die. Cities can't function in isolation. They depend on food being brought in, on goods flowing through, on people coming for business and tourism. All of that has stopped. The great American cities are becoming irrelevant. Population and economic activity will shift to smaller communities that can be more self-sufficient.
It's 4 a.m. We're 8 hours into this broadcast. Elena, the sky will start lightening in a few hours. Dawn on day 4 of the crisis. What does daylight reveal? Armies in battle, cities abandoned, government collapsed, supply chains severed, millions displaced, economy destroyed, infrastructure failing, nuclear weapons unsecured, foreign powers circling. This is America at 4 a.m. on day 4 of national collapse. By day 7, by day 14, how much worse will it be? The trajectory is clear. We're spiraling downward. The question is whether we hit bottom or whether there is no bottom, just endless falling.
I keep thinking about historical parallels. Yugoslavia in the 1990s, a multi-ethnic state that collapsed into ethnic civil war. The Soviet Union in 1991, a superpower that fragmented into separate nations. The Roman Empire in the 5th century, seemingly eternal until suddenly it wasn't. All of these seemed impossible until they happened. America seemed eternal. The idea that the United States could collapse, could cease to exist, it was unthinkable. But the unthinkable is happening. We're living through the collapse of the American empire. Future historians, if there are future historians, will study this. We're the generation that lost America.
But perhaps something better could emerge from the ruins. The original United States was built from the collapse of the British colonial system. Maybe something better, or at least different, can be built from the collapse of the United States. Maybe the successor states will be more responsive to their populations, more democratic, more just. Maybe smaller nations will govern better than one large nation. Maybe the suffering we're experiencing now is the birth pang of something better. I don't really believe that. I think we're just experiencing decline without any redemptive meaning. But I want to believe it. I want to believe this suffering serves some purpose.
It's 4:15 a.m. Marcus, we're receiving reports of a major development. There's been a nuclear incident at Minot Air Force Base in North Dakota. Details are fragmentary and possibly unreliable, but reports suggest an unauthorized launch authorization was issued. Whether a weapon was actually launched is unclear. Communications from the base have been cut, either deliberately or due to attack. The base is in constitutionalist-controlled territory, but there are continuity loyalists on the base who may have sabotaged something. This is the nightmare scenario, a nuclear weapons facility in chaos during civil war. If a weapon was launched, We'll know soon. If not, this was a close call.
I want to be very clear. We don't know if a nuclear weapon has been launched. We're hearing rumors and fragmentary reports. It's possible this is misinformation. It's possible something else happened at the base. But the fact that we're even discussing the possibility of unauthorized nuclear launch from an American base is terrifying. This is how nuclear war starts. Not through calculated decision by rational leaders, but through chaos, miscommunication, unauthorized actions during crisis. Both factions need to secure their nuclear weapons immediately. This is more important than any territorial dispute or political argument.
The international community will react strongly to this. If there's even a hint that American nuclear weapons are being used or are at risk of unauthorized use, foreign powers may intervene militarily. China and Russia have both indicated they would consider military action to secure American nuclear weapons if they believed those weapons were at risk of terrorist acquisition or unauthorized use. An intervention to secure American nuclear weapons would be an invasion of American soil by foreign powers that could unite American factions against a common enemy, or it could make everything worse by adding foreign powers to an already complex civil war.
It's 4:30 a.m. Let me share an update on the battle in Kentucky because it's concluded, or at least this phase has concluded. The Constitutionalist force was pushed back. The Continuity force held the line. Casualty numbers are being revised upward, possibly 300 dead, over 1,000 wounded. The town of Franklin is devastated. Dozens of civilian casualties, buildings destroyed, infrastructure wrecked. The Constitutionalist force retreated back toward Tennessee. The Continuity force is claiming victory, but Pyrrhic victory at best. They held ground but took massive casualties. Neither side can sustain losses at this rate for long.
The battle reveals something important about how this war will be fought. Neither side has overwhelming advantage. The military forces are roughly equivalent in capability because they're both American military, same training, same equipment, same doctrine. This means engagements will be costly for both sides. There won't be quick, decisive victories. It will be grinding attrition. Whichever side can sustain losses longer will eventually win, but both sides will bleed enormously in the process. This is the worst kind of war, the kind where both sides are so evenly matched that it drags on for years with enormous casualties.
It's 4:45 a.m. Elena, I want to address something we've been implying but not stating directly. The United States of America is over. It's finished. It's not coming back. Even if one faction wins completely, even if the country is reunified under one government, it won't be the United States as we knew it. Too much has been broken. Too much trust has been lost. Too much blood has been spilled. The America that existed a week ago with its Constitution, its institutions, its shared identity, that's dead. We're in the aftermath now. We're living in the post-American period. Whatever comes next, it's not America.
That's a profound statement, and I think you're right. The America we knew is gone. The question is what replaces it. Multiple successor states seems most likely the Pacific Coalition becoming an independent nation or confederation, the Constitutional Alliance becoming another, maybe a Midwest Republic, maybe a Northeast Union. These would be new countries with new constitutions, new governments, new identities. They might maintain some connection to American history and values, but they'd be fundamentally different entities. Or maybe one faction conquers the others and imposes unity by force. That would be America in name, but would be a military dictatorship, not the democratic republic we had.
There's also the possibility of complete fragmentation, not just 3 or 4 successor states, but dozens, every state going its own way, or regions within states becoming independent. The United States breaking into 50 pieces or more. That would be the worst outcome. Too small to be viable as independent states, too numerous to form a stable order, constant conflict between many states, economic collapse because none would be large enough to sustain modern economy. That's the dark scenario, not civil war between 2 factions that eventually resolves, but permanent fragmentation into chaos. I hope we avoid that, but it's possible.
It's 5 a.m. We're 9 hours into this broadcast, Marcus. The horizon is starting to lighten. We can see the dawn approaching. Day 4 begins. The sun rises on a nation that no longer exists as it was. What happens today? More battles, more people displaced, more economic collapse, more suffering, and tomorrow will be worse. And the day after, worse still. We're on a downward trajectory with no bottom in sight. The only question is how low we go before something, exhaustion, outside intervention, miraculous reconciliation, stops the fall. For now, we keep falling.
To everyone listening, you've been with us for 9 hours. You've stayed up through the night, monitoring the situation, trying to understand what's happening. That shows strength. That shows engagement. Don't lose that. Stay informed. Stay connected. But also take care of yourselves. Rest when you can. Eat. Drink water. Maintain your health because the crisis will continue and you need to be functional. We'll continue broadcasting. We'll be here through the day, through tomorrow, as long as we can keep the station running. You're not alone. We're here. Millions are listening. We're a community bound by shared experience of national collapse.
It's 5:15 a.m. Let me end this section with a thought. Nations are not eternal. Empires rise and fall. No political system lasts forever. America had a good run, nearly 250 years as a unified nation. That's longer than most empires. The fact that it's ending doesn't mean it was meaningless. The ideals America represented, democracy, liberty, equality, opportunity, those ideals don't die with the nation. Those ideals can be carried forward into whatever comes next. The American story might be ending, but the human story continues. We carry forward what was good and try to build something better from the ruins. That's all we can do. That's what humans have always done.
This is Marcus Reed and Elena Shaw. We'll continue broadcasting throughout the day. Stay with us, stay informed, stay safe, and stay human. Whatever comes, we face it together.